Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Nagamon Chetty and Charlie State.
Our headlines today. Labour loses hundreds of seats as the first results come through in the local elections in England.
It's been a night of substantial success for Reform, winning more than half of the seats that have been declared. There have also been significant gains for the Greens.
People are turning out, and they've turned out to repaint the red wall the turquoise wall.
Labour's already lost control of several councils, including Redditch, Tamworth, Hartlepool, Exeter and Tameside.
Yes, on the doorstep, it has been tough, there has been frustration, and we will have to pick up pace and really hear the public.
A bad night for Labour, living down to what were already low expectations. But what does it mean for Sir Keir Starmer's future?
Well, throughout the morning, we'll be speaking to the main parties in England and assessing their fortunes.
Counting in the Scottish and Welsh parliamentary elections begins in the next few hours. We'll be there with the latest.
Also on the programme, the World Health Organization says the outbreak of hantavirus on board a cruise ship is not the start of a pandemic, as it confirms 5 cases.
And here it is, the harvest mouse. Welcome to your new home. There you go.
And we'll celebrate Sir David Attenborough on his 100th birthday.
And good morning. The weather is looking pretty mixed today. Most of us have got a lot of cloud around. There's some showery rain in the forecast. Also a little bit of sunshine, and temperatures are on the rise in the south. I'll have all the details here on BBC Breakfast.
Good morning, it's Friday the 8th of May. Our main story, Labour has suffered significant losses overnight as the first results from England's local election are announced.
More than 5,000 seats across 136 English councils are being fought for, as well as 6 mayoral contests. It's still early and there are lots of counts still taking place, but so far it looks to have been a difficult night for Sir Keir Starmer, with Reform UK benefiting at Labour's expense. No overnight counts in Scotland or Wales means some voters will have to wait a little longer to hear the results of their parliamentary elections.
So let's take a look at the early results in England. Those counts, of course, still going on. It's Reform UK that has seen the biggest gain, 307 seats. The Liberal Democrats have gained 35. Labour has so far had a huge loss of 228 seats. It's a similar story for the Conservatives, losing 114.
The latest numbers show the Green Party has gained 22 seats and independent councillors have lost 17. So that's a look at the individual seats, but let's see what that means in terms of councils as a whole. Labour down by 7. The biggest shift in terms of council control are expected later, along with the first wave of results from Scotland and Wales. Our political correspondent, Damien Grammaticus, has the story of the night so far.
Tamworth in Staffordshire was an early sign of things to come. Labour and the Conservatives losing every seat they were defending to Reform. Reform's deputy leader Richard Tice enjoying the moment. Labour remains the biggest party here but has lost overall control.
The turnout in many areas is up, and that's great because it's sometimes not easy in local elections, but people are turning out, and they've turned out to repaint the red wall the turquoise wall.
In Hull, more Reform gains saw the Lib Dems lose overall control and Labour 8 of the 9 seats they were defending. Here they said the message from the doorstep was clear.
So many people mentioned that they would not vote for Keir Starmer or for anybody that represented Keir Starmer. And obviously, as a local Labour councillor, that's what they saw me as. I'm his representative in our area.
In Redditch in Worcestershire, another 6 Labour seats lost to Reform and control of another council gone. The same story was repeated in Hartlepool, to the dismay of the local Labour MP.
I think we need change at the top of the Labour Party. I think the best thing the Prime Minister could do is address the nation tomorrow and set a timetable for an orderly transition, and also make sure that in that transition the widest talent pool possible can participate.
The Conservatives too have been losing seats to Reform, and these elections look set to confirm that the dominance of the traditional major parties is weakening. For others, there's been something to celebrate. The Lib Dems gained control here in Stockport, and they did the same in Portsmouth too.
Lisa Smart, Lib Dem MP for Hazel Grove. You are dancing in front of me.
Dancing. Lib Dems have won control of Stockport Council, and this is such a victory for the people of Stockport. I couldn't be prouder of the team. We have got an amazing team who have been delivering what the people of Stockport have been asking for.
There's no doubt, though, whose night this has been, reforms. But there are thousands more council seats in England to be decided, along with all the votes in Scotland and Wales too. Damon Grammaticus, BBC News.
Let's talk to our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman. Henry's at Downing Street for us this morning. Good morning to you, Henry. Not a great night for the Labour Party.
No, a bad night, Naga. I think let's just emphasise again, this is only a partial set of results which have counted overnight. It's not even the majority of English councillors where we've seen the results overnight, and of course that doesn't even account for the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Parliament where we'll learn the results later today. That being said, from what we have seen so far, it is bleak for the Labour Party. They expected it to be bleak, but these results have lived down to expectations, especially in some of those areas where in the past decade or so there's been all sorts of terms thrown around to describe them: red wall, heartlands and so on. Areas where traditionally the Labour Party has been very strong in Parliament, but also in terms of council control, but perhaps that voted to leave the European Union. Those are areas where the Labour Party has done very, very badly overnight. There are some early signs in the last half an hour or so that perhaps conversely the results in London will be bad for Labour, but perhaps not quite as bad as they feared. But it is early and we will find out more over the course of the day.
How have the other parties done, Henry?
Well, the main beneficiary of Labour doing badly has been Reform UK, as you heard from Damien there. They have gained lots and lots of councillors in various different parts of the country, but especially those areas which voted to leave the European Union a decade ago now. That doesn't necessarily mean that Labour voters have defected directly to Reform UK. It might be that they voted for other parties or stayed at home while Reform UK's vote share has gone up. I think it's always important to remember that the flows of voters in different directions can be different. The Liberal Democrats have had a decent night. They gained control of 2 new councils, but also lost control of 1. The Green Party has done OK. They've gained a fair number of councillors. It hasn't necessarily been as great as they might have anticipated so far, but their main targets haven't come back yet. And then the Conservatives, really part of that same story as Labour. They are losing votes and councillors to Reform UK, and it is a sign that the two-party control of politics that we've grown so used to is fracturing.
Yeah, we're going to see these changes. What does all of this mean for the leader of the Labour Party, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer?
Well, I think we've got overnight, as you were hearing there, a preview of the argument that his loyal ministers will make. They will say it is not time, as David Lammy put it, to change the pilot in mid-air. They will argue that Keir Starmer needs to have a chance to show that he can win round wavering voters. We've seen some pretty serious criticism overnight from Rebecca Long-Bailey and John McDonnell, both Labour MPs, but Labour MPs from a very different part of the party to Sir Keir Starmer. The thing I am watching for over the course of the morning and later in the day is whether people who are generally supportive of Keir Starmer start to change into being critical. Even if it's gently critical, that will be a sign that the winds are blowing in a way that is not good for the inhabitant of that building behind me.
There's a lot to keep an eye on, Henry. Thanks so much. That's our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman.
Yes, Henry talking about the big picture there, but it's all about these local election results. Let's take a closer look at some of the results that have come in so far this morning. Of course, they're coming in all the time now. We're going to start with Hartlepool. Here's the final count from Hartlepool. The council Labour took control of 2 years ago, a place where they won the parliamentary seat from the Conservatives at the last general election. But this year it's Reform UK, which has managed a clean sweep, winning all 12 seats that were up for grabs. You'll get a hang on our graphics here as we go through the morning this morning. You can see 7 of those came at Labour's expense. The Conservatives also lost ground, meaning the council is now left in no overall control. So we're going to jump around a number of places this morning. This is the picture for Tameside in Greater Manchester. Even worse for Labour there. An area of historic strength for the party. It's where the former Deputy Leader Angela Rayner's constituency is, of course. Labour has held a majority on the council since 1979, but not anymore. If we look at the change of seats, Labour down by 16. Again, it's Reform, which is hoovering up that support, up by 18. This is the graph there. We'll be spending a lot of time looking at this. This is the all-important change. Labour down 16, Reform up 18, and the Conservatives losing 2 there as well. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to Exeter. A poor result there for Labour. Another place they've lost to no overall control. And a look at the change in seats. Labour down by 5. And here you can see the Greens up by 3, Liberal Democrats up by 1, Reform up by 2 as well. This is one of the important graphics you'll see during the morning, because it gives a real sense of where those votes are going. It wasn't just Reform that benefited. You can see there the Greens as well. They're up by 3 seats. Conservatives did also lose a bit of ground here.
We can hear now about another London borough, Havering in East London, a place where Reform UK is making gains. Let's talk to our reporter, Jonathan Josephs, who's there. Jonathan, morning to you. So this was targeted, wasn't it, this area, by Reform UK when it comes to London. What are the implications for Labour?
Good morning, Naga. Good morning, Charlie. The implications for Labour are that they are not doing particularly well here. They have managed to hold on to 2 seats so far in the Labour heartland of Havering in the Beam Park ward. So there was some relief for Labour there. But overall, it looks like it's going to be a very good night for Reform once all the results are in. They need 28 of the 55 seats to take control of a London borough for the first time. This is the easternmost borough of London's 32 boroughs, straddling the M25 and the River Thames. And it is a place that has long done politics its own way. It has a long history of no overall control. And up to now, the Havering Residents Association have actually been running this as a minority administration. But it seems like that won't be the case for very much longer, because Reform have taken 4 of the 6 seats that have been declared so far. And issues including immigration benefits has been a problem for voters. They're also concerned about the dire financial situation of the council. It's had to borrow more than £230 million from central government in recent years, so no funding to do things for local people. But there's been a high turnout and it seems to have gone well for Reform. But we're some way off. We're running behind because of that high turnout. So at least another hour, I reckon, before we know exactly how much Reform have won by, if indeed, of course, they do win the council.
No doubt, Jonathan, we will be checking in with you. Good to hear from you. Thanks very much, Jonathan Josephs there in Havering.
More cheers here now. More.
It was just starting to get noisy there, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's how it's going to work this morning. We're going to be calling in at a lot of those polling stations, finding out what's going on, because the results are very slowly trickling in. It is early doors. Let's go to polling expert Professor Sir John Curtice. Morning to you, John. Lovely to see you there. We turn to you for wisdom at these times. And I know we caution everything with early days, only a few results in. What's the picture you're seeing?
Well, the picture is one, first of all, whereby it's clear that overnight Reform have won more votes than anybody else. They have accordingly won more seats than everybody else. And to that extent, at least so far, they're repeating much of the pattern that they managed to enjoy in last year's local elections. They're winning about 1 in 3 of the seats they're in so far. So far, that's not reflected in spectacular gains of councils, because that's essentially because overnight, most of the councils that have been counted are places where only 1 in 3 of the seats were up for grabs. The places where Reform really have their eyes on, particularly as far as Labour is concerned, Barnsley, Sunderland, Gateshead, they all declared today. But some of the results we've seen elsewhere in places that are not dissimilar, traditional Labour territory, but places that voted very heavily for Brexit, suggests that certainly Reform are going to be a threat there. Thereafter, there's a kind of bunch of 4 political parties, all kind of roughly recording something between 15 and 20% of the vote, but it's very, very difficult to disentangle them at the moment. That, of course, includes the Conservatives, whose support isn't down quite so much as that is of Labour, but it's still down very heavily, and therefore, yes, absolutely, fairly clear underlining of the fact that we've now got fractured politics, because, you know, even Reform are at best running in the high 20s. Perhaps the worst performing parties got at least around 15% of the vote. So we've got 5 political parties not that far apart from each other, and the battle for trying to gain supremacy and support of the electorate is still a very tough one between all 5 of them.
John, morning to you. It's Naga. Good to see you. When it comes to the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives, as the you know, now not the second place parties, how are they faring against each other? Very different politics, and the Lib Dems before had gained significantly in the last election, not so much this time round.
Yeah, the Liberal Democrats went into this election saying they were going to make significant gains of seats, both from actually Labour as well as the Conservatives. Actually, so far, yes, they've made modest gains of seats. They've picked up a couple of councils, but they've also lost one. And actually, if you look at the voting numbers, actually, on average, their support's about 3 or 4 points down on average as to when these seats were last fought over back in 2022. Yes, but you know, that said, they've managed to hang on to Richmond and Sutton and some of their South London strongholds. But in truth, so far at least, it hasn't demonstrated that the Liberal Democrats are making progress as they were claiming they would, as opposed to the message from the opinion polls, which is of a party that's largely been treading water. The Conservatives, you know, have been losing seats heavily. Their share of the votes down by about 13 or 14 points as compared with the position back in 2022. And again, for them, as with the places where they really have their heads on the line, which are 3 county councils in East Anglia, Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex. And we've already got some results in Essex which don't portend terribly well for the party there. This is where Reform hope to make making gains from the Conservatives, and that's where the Conservatives, I think, will still be nervous. And so far, you know, while they denied Labour control of Wandsworth, they haven't got the headline they really wanted, which is Conservatives regain control of that once golden crown jewel in the London capital.
John, always good to speak to you. Thanks very much for being with us after a long night. Professor Sir John Curtice, thank you.
We will be jumping around to a number of these counts. Let's do that right now. Reform has performed well in Newcastle under Lyme, gaining 16 seats. Conservatives previously held a majority but have lost 8 councillors this time around. Third of the seats yet to be declared. Our reporter Jenny Aitken is there for us this morning. Morning to you, Jenny. What's happening?
Good morning. Well, we've just seen a declaration in place which puts Reform at 22. I'll have to double check. It might be just over the line at 23 seats out of 44. They are on course to take control here of the council. They need 23 to do so. And there's still a few counts to get through as well, a few wards, and quite a few of them have been closer, quite a few of them have been recounts. And we've, of course, had Richard Tice here in the building as well, really saying that the party are preparing for a general election. They've been pushing for power here off the back of a momentous win, historic result at Staffordshire County Council just a year ago. They took control with a huge majority, and, well, they seem to be making history here too. In terms of the other parties, it has been a disastrous night for the Labour group here, which have had a real presence on the council. So far, they've just had 1-2 seats. Councillors have described it as a humbling night for them. The Conservatives, I think it's fair to say, not as bad as they thought. They have managed to hang on and build some votes in some areas. The Conservative leader has hung on to his seat, but clearly not his position as leader. Who will lead the council? We're yet to see, but we know former Conservative MP Jonathan Gullis. He has won a seat as a Reform member here, and he will be interesting to see what position he might be eyeing up. But certainly a sea of teal here in Newcastle under Lyme.
Jenny, thank you very much. So that's the situation, Newcastle under Lyme, just waiting effectively for one more vote to see who has overall control. In Scotland, voters went to the polls to elect a new national parliament, and the big question is whether the Scottish National Party will win an historic 5th term in power.
Now, unlike England, there are no overnight counts in Scotland or Wales. It means that constituents will have to wait a little longer to find out who will represent them. Let's talk to our correspondent, Lorna Gordon, who joins us from outside the Glasgow count. Morning, Lorna. It looks like a beautiful morning there. I just wonder, beautiful for who?
Yeah, a lovely morning, peaceful so far. We're waiting for this count to get underway. Counting starts at 9 o'clock. This, of course, is Scotland's largest electoral area. Over a tenth of MSPs elected to the Scottish Parliament come from Glasgow in a mixture of constituency, which are first past the post seats, and a regional list, which is a form of proportional representation. There are other constituencies here in Glasgow that are big geographically. We've seen the ballot boxes being transported to the counts overnight using, in some instances, boats, in others, helicopters. They've been kept secure, those ballot boxes, overnight. I suppose there's some themes to look for as the day progresses. One is what happens to some of those tight races. There are a good handful of tight seats where the results could be close, most but not all in the Central Belt. As you say, it's whether the SNP win an overall majority. The number for that, the key number, is 65. The leader of Scottish Labour, Anna Sarwar, has throughout this campaign also been presenting himself as an alternative First Minister. He's tried to create some space from Sir Keir Starmer. Remember, a couple of months ago, he called on him to go. So we'll be looking to see whether that has worked. And also that other theme, reform. Never before have they won a seat in a national election here in Scotland. But how well will they punch through as those results start coming in from about midday onwards?
Busy day there as well. Lorna, thanks so much, Lorna Gordon, for us in Glasgow.
So let's tell you about the situation in Wales. There is a new voting system in place, meaning there's been significant changes to how members are elected to the Senate.
Our Wales correspondent, political correspondent, Daniel Davies, can tell us more about what's at stake.
Labour has dominated politics in Wales, but now, under the leadership of Eluned Morgan, they face serious jeopardy, with Plaid Cymru and Reform UK ahead in most of the recent opinion polls. A big change could be on the way. But some things are definitely changing because the Senedd is growing, it's getting more politicians. So they've created 16 new constituencies, some of which are vast. But in each of these constituencies, a new proportional voting system will be used to elect 6 members, which means a Senedd of 96 members, unlike the previous 60. But we can take the results from the last election 5 years ago, apply the new boundaries and the new voting system, and see what the result would have been. And it confirms Labour as the biggest party, comfortably ahead of its rivals, the next 2 parties, the Conservatives and then Plaid Cymru. And that really has been the story of devolution. Labour, the biggest party, in control of the Welsh Government from the start. But they have had to deal with other parties because they haven't had an outright majority here. And in the new Senedd, the new target for a majority is 49 seats. We're not expecting any party to reach that threshold on its own, but we'll find out whether combinations of parties can get there. Will that mean that Labour is dislodged from power? It would be a big moment in Wales and one that would have profound implications in Westminster and for Keir Starmer.
Wales's political correspondent Daniel Davies there, looking ahead to the Senedd election results, which will begin to come in later this morning.
Let's take a breath. 6:23 is the time now. Sarah's got the weather for us this morning. How's it looking, Sarah?
That looks lovely. Morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Naga and Charlie. Morning to you too. Well, it's a little bit milder than it was at this stage yesterday. We've got quite a lot of cloud around, but there are some clear spells from the word go. This is the picture in Thurleston in Barnsley first thing. Now, I think we will keep quite a lot of cloud in general through the day, and it's going to produce a little bit of showery rain here and there. For some of us, it's going to stay dry all day, but temperatures are going to be on the rise from the south, some slightly warmer air working its way in. Not everywhere, though. We've got this cold front. It's going to be quite slow moving, and it really is the dividing line between cooler, fresher conditions in the north, milder air heading in from the south. So on that cold front, there's a bit of showery rain across parts of southern Scotland towards the Isle of Man, parts of Northern Ireland for a time before it clears, and also some showers developing for parts of Wales down towards central southern England, but these will be fairly hit and miss. It is going to be a brighter day across the north of Scotland. Temperatures here only about 11 degrees or so. Down towards the southeast, though, 19, possibly 20 Celsius. And then heading through into the evening hours, the showers across Wales, the Midlands, drift further north into northern England, the far south of Scotland. Either side of that, most places looking dry. Quite a chilly night tonight across Scotland. We're likely to see a touch of frost in the more rural spots, but milder in the south. And a bit like this morning, there could be some mist and some fog patches. Through the day tomorrow, we've still got this weak cold front dividing the warmer air in the south, the cooler air in the north, and where those air masses meet, some rain, particularly for parts of the Scottish borders, northern England, down towards Wales could be a few showers, and into the far southwest of England, 1 or 2 showers. But look at that difference in temperature, 21 in London, but further north, a cooler spell. If you're stuck under the cloud with the rain for Newcastle, temperatures are going to struggle to get out of single figures. So it is looking pretty mixed, depending on where you are over the next few days. Naga and Charlie.
Sarah, thank you very much.
Time now is 25 minutes past 6. Spain's health minister is trying to reassure people in the Canary Islands as a cruise ship at the centre of a hantavirus outbreak heads towards Tenerife.
The MV Hondius is heading towards the port of Granadilla, where all of its passengers will disembark before being repatriated. Our correspondent Guy Hedgecoe has this report.
This is Granadilla port in Tenerife. It's where the Hondius cruise ship is due to arrive. The Spanish government says that taking in the boat is a humanitarian and legal obligation, and that the Canary Islands are equipped to manage this situation. But many local residents are uneasy.
The workers are really worried because they haven't been given any information at all. They haven't been told about safety measures, whether they're going to have to wear face masks or protective equipment.
I think the most sensible thing would be for them to think about us and not allow that ship into the Canary Islands.
We have to be very careful. People in those protective suits should go in and help them. I still don't think it's a good idea, though, but people do need help, so that's it.
Dock workers, fearful for their safety, have called a protest for today, demanding the authorities provide clearer information about the boat's arrival and the security measures that will be used. They have even threatened to prevent the cruise ship from approaching. The local government has criticised ministers in Madrid for allowing the boat to travel here, as have opposition parties who have described the situation as chaotic. The government insists tight safety measures will be taken. The ship will not dock directly in Tenerife. Instead, it will anchor off the coast and its passengers will be ferried to the island and will have no contact with local people. Preparations are also being made to repatriate passengers once they are given the medical all-clear. Spain said that officials were in talks with the UK to send a repatriation flight for British nationals to Tenerife. Guy Hedgecoe, BBC News, Tenerife.
President Trump claims a ceasefire between the United States and Iran is still holding, despite Iranian boats and US Navy warships trading fire in the Strait of Hormuz overnight.
The flare-up comes a day after Iran's foreign ministry had said it was considering a US proposal to end the war. Our North America correspondent David Willis has this report.
A fragile ceasefire is becoming more tenuous by the day. An exchange of fire involving 3 guided missile destroyers, part of the US naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, the subject of competing narratives, with both sides saying the other fired first. In a post on social media, President Trump claimed the US Navy had inflicted great damage on what he called the Iranian attackers, whose boats, he added, went to the bottom of the sea quickly and efficiently. Missiles and drones, he added, dropped ever so beautifully down to the ocean, very much like a butterfly dropping to its grave.
They should not have done that today. We thought they might. We didn't know, but we were prepared. They shot missiles. Every missile was knocked down. Every drone was knocked down. And the people that shot it are no longer with us.
Iran says it fired in response to what it called US aggression in the Strait, and that the US response included attacks on Iranian military facilities in the region. Violations of the ceasefire, according to Iran. Not according to President Trump, however, who continues to insist a truce remains in place and that an agreement to end the conflict could be close at hand.
Could happen any day. Could, and it might not happen, but it could happen any day. I believe they want the deal more than I do.
How many more such skirmishes this fragile ceasefire can endure in the meantime, however, remains to be seen. David Willis, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Let's talk to our correspondent Caroline Davies, who's in Dubai. Caroline, morning to you. So this exchange of fire overnight, I mean, it's been reported, yet we're being told that the ceasefire is still underway. What's going on?
Yeah, and I'd also add to that in the course of the last few hours, we've heard from the Ministry of Defence here in the UAE. They said that they have been engaging with missiles and drones they said have come from Iran with a security message telling people to make sure they follow safety and security advice that was put out on social media. So again, a lot of people will connect the two between these two events because these are the sort of flare-ups that we've been seeing in the course of the last week. But yes, the big question is whether or not this ceasefire holds in place. President Trump saying that the ceasefire is still in place. From the Iranian side, when they said they launched this attack on the 3 US destroyers, they said this was because the US had violated the ceasefire. They said that was because they had targeted a Iranian flagged tanker. I think what we've seen throughout the course of this conflict is that the decision about whether the ceasefire holds or not, both have accused the other of violations, but it seems to be a political decision about whether they want that to still be in place. America says they do. We're waiting to see whether Iran will respond differently or also agree that it's also in place.
Caroline, thanks very much. Caroline Davies there, our correspondent in Dubai.
A man will appear in court today after allegedly threatening Andrew Mountbatten Windsor near his home on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. Alex Jenkinson, who's 39 and from Stowmarket in Suffolk, faces 2 charges of using threatening or abusive words or behaviour.
From today, Instagram users will no longer be able to send or receive encrypted private messages. The social media platform had previously championed the feature, saying it offered users the highest level of privacy. But after years of criticism from lawyers and child safety groups, it's now switching the feature off.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. The results from the local elections across London are starting to come in. More than 6 million Londoners were eligible to vote, with all 32 London boroughs up for election. More than 1,800 councillors are being elected, as well as directly elected mayors in Croydon, Hackney, Lewisham, Newham and Tower Hamlets. Well, our political editor, Carl Mercer, is in the BBC London election hub this morning and has been keeping an eye on the situation overnight. Carl, over to you.
Yeah, we've got 10 councils out of London's 32 counting overnight, the rest counting through the rest of the day. And we are starting to get some results through. This probably the most interesting one so far. Labour took Wandsworth from the Tories last time round, but they have lost control. The council gone to no overall control, with the Conservatives, as you see there, now the biggest party. If we move on to Richmond, that results in the Lib Dems have held that, increased the number of councillors they've got. They're up to 54. They took every single seat on Richmond. And then moving on to next door, Sutton. Again, a Lib Dem stronghold. They were expected to do well here, and they've taken 51 of the seats there. But just in the corner there, 2 seats for Reform. Merton, the Lib Dems were targeting it, but Labour have held on, and by quite some margin, which is a surprise. Sir Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, had talked up his party's chances of winning here in Merton. Still waiting on other results. One of the key ones I think we're looking at is Havering, out towards the east, where Reform look like they're going to win, and that would mean that would be the first Reform council that London has ever had.
Carl, for now, thank you. Well, as we were just hearing from Carl there, Merton has been held by Labour. Our reporter Harry Lowe has spent the night at the count and has just sent us this update.
As day breaks here in Merton, the sun is shining on Labour, who've managed to increase the number of seats here by 1. The Liberal Democrats, who are on stage behind me, have increased the number of seats they've got here by 2. And the Conservatives have actually lost their leader and 3 seats and are down to just 4. But the real story is that the Liberal Democrats in advance were very, very hopeful of winning here. They've not been able to do that. Labour, despite looking bleak in the rest of the country and losing some vote share here, have actually managed to hold on to Merton Council, and they're delighted about that.
Harry Lowe there, and we've got still some more results to bring you later on this morning. OK, so that takes us to a look at the weather. Today we'll see areas of cloud bringing scattered showers. These will be light and isolated in the morning, but in the afternoon they'll turn heavier with a small risk of some lightning today. We could see a maximum temperature of around 19 degrees Celsius. OK, that is it for now. You can see more results, reaction and analysis, of course, from the local elections as it comes in by heading over to the BBC News website and, of course, the BBC News app as well. BBC Radio London is taking the results into their breakfast programme too. Bye for now.
Welcome back. 24 minutes to 7 is the time. Let's bring you up to date. So, Labour has suffered significant losses overnight. The first results from England's local elections are coming through. They're being announced. Let's update you. We've seen more than 5,000 seats across 136 English councils being fought for, as well as 6 mayoral contests. It is still early. There are many counts still taking place. So far, though, it does look to have been a very difficult night for Sir Keir Starmer. Reform UK benefiting very much at Labour's expense. So if we take a look at some of the early results in England, it is Reform UK that's seen the biggest gain of 325 seats. Now, the Liberal Democrats have gained 35. Labour so far experiencing the biggest loss of 246 seats, and a similar story for the Conservatives, losing 119. And then if we look at the Greens, the latest numbers show that this party has gained 26. Independent councillors losing 16 at the moment, with 20 remaining. So that's a look at the individual seats. But let's see what it means in terms of councils as a whole. So if we take a look at the council picture, Labour's lost 7. And that's the biggest shift in terms of council control. The biggest shifts, actually, are expected later today, along with the first wave of results from Scotland and Wales. And you can see how the individual parties are doing. The Conservatives losing 1, Lib Dems gaining 1, Reform UK gaining 1, but it's Labour with the biggest losses at the moment. It's also been a difficult night for Labour in the North West. If we go to Wigan, which is one of the party's traditional heartlands, it's been held by Labour, but Reform won all 25 seats that were on offer. Labour lost the 22 it was defending, and just a third of the seats were up for election this year. So that is how Labour's managed to keep control of the council. Still, the message is clear. Pretty dire result. Now, if we go to Tamworth, similar story. Labour also lost seats. This is in the West Midlands, of course, and it's cost the party its majority. So where you see on the top here, grey, no overall control now for that council in Tamworth, and you can see 10 seats for Reform. Labour's moving down to 14. Again, Reform the big winner. Not just taking seats from Labour, but also taking seats from the Conservatives, which now has 3. Now, we should remind you that even at this early stage, there is a varied picture across the country. And we can take you to Portsmouth now, again. This has stayed under Liberal Democrat control, and Reform has performed well, but the Lib Dems have taken control of this council. Now, this result really gives a sense of what a bad night it was for some parties. Both Labour and the Conservatives now have a combined total, Labour and the Conservatives have a combined total of 7 seats of Portsmouth Council's 42 seats.
So far, there hasn't been much change for the Liberal Democrats, with a slight gain. We're joined by the party's deputy leader, Daisy Cooper. Morning to you, Daisy Cooper. Just give us your analysis. Obviously, things are changing all the time, but as we stand, what are you making of what you're seeing?
Well, for us, we think we are set to continue our winning streak. And if all goes well, we think this will be the 8th consecutive set of local elections where we've made significant gains. So we're delighted with some of the results that have come in overnight from Sutton to Stockport. But we think the best are yet to come later this afternoon.
What does what you're seeing so far tell you about the state of the Labour Party?
Well, quite frankly, it's clear that Labour promised change and they haven't delivered it. And clearly people around the country are wanting to send that message to the Labour government. But it's clear that in places like Sutton and Stockport, where the Liberal Democrats are really strong, we've been winning off both Conservatives and Labour.
When you look at the Reform vote, it is they're having major gains. Currently, 325, I think. They're up 325. What do you make of those successes, and why are people voting for Reform rather than turning to the Liberal Democrats?
Well, I think it's clear that the vast majority of the country are still sick to the back teeth of the Conservatives. They're still fed up and fed up again with Labour for not delivering that change, and they're looking for alternative parties. Some people who share our Liberal Democrat values, who are internationalist, environmentalist, pro-business, they will be looking to vote for the Liberal Democrats, but there are clearly other parts of the country where people would prefer to vote for Reform.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Have you entirely accounted for why it is they're turning to Reform? And also, it has to be said, turning to the Green Party, they're up, I think it's 26 right now. They're making significant gains too. Would appear, if anything, that people who are not voting for Labour or Conservatives are going to Reform or the Greens rather than to the Liberal Democrats.
Well, if you look at the results that we've had in Richmond overnight, we Liberal Democrats have won 5 seats off the Green Party and wiped them out. If you look at places like Hull, it's actually the Liberal Democrats that have been holding Reform at bay. So actually, we Liberal Democrats are winning, against the Conservatives, Labour, Reform and Green Party in different parts of the country. So as I say, we're doing very well so far, and our best results are yet to come later this afternoon.
Daisy Cooper, do you want, just so people, because it's early, 6:41 on Friday morning, can you point us towards what you think will be or could be the most significant of those gains, the places where possibly you hadn't done well before that we need to look for?
We won't be guessing what's going to happen during the course of today. I think we're going to see some surprising results all over the place. But the results we've seen so far, as I say, winning really strongly in Sutton, winning really well in Stockport. These are 2 really good examples that have come through already.
Would they possibly, Daisy Cooper, be places where you might have expected to do well? We're just seeing some of those moments when the results are read out. Would these have been places where you would have been expecting to do well?
Well, what I would say is we Liberal Democrats do work really hard on the ground. That's been our story for decades and decades and decades. And where we work, we win. So these are areas where we had hoped to do well, but I think we've even exceeded our own expectations.
Daisy Cooper, thank you very much for your time this morning. And, of course, we'll be watching the results as they come in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As Charlie said, we are still in the early stages of these local council results, but we can speak now to Professor John Tong from the University of Liverpool, who's keeping us company this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Nadia.
As expected, this overnight so far?
Very much so. It's been the Reform show so far, and it's been a really bad night, as expected, for Labour, and it's going to be a really bad day for Labour. To put this in some sort of context, Labour's looking at the worst local election performance this century, whatever measurement you use. If you look at the percentage of seats that Labour's likely to lose, that could be as high as 75%. No party's ever lost more than 68% of the seats it was defending. If you look at the sheer volume of seats that could be lost, that could be as many as 1,500, possibly more for Labour. Now, it should be said, Labour's defending an awful lot of seats. Labour's defending more than 2,000 seats. And if you look at the share of the vote that will be achieved by Labour, that could be a record low for a local election. So it's a pretty grim tale in terms of a Labour meltdown.
Is this an indictment on Keir Starmer, or a vote for Reform, or, as Daisy Cooper was saying there, as you've seen in Richmond, the clean sweep? Where are the votes going?
Well, it reflects a disaffection with both our historically main parties. The so-called uni-party, as Reform dismissed them. The Conservatives are losing seats as well, but not at the rate of Labour, and the Conservatives have fewer to defend. But the Conservatives had a really bad local election last time when the Conservatives were trying to defend seats, and there was 10 councils lost, 9 of which were Conservative, that went to Reform. So there is a real disaffection, and obviously Keir Starmer's position will come under ever more pressure. But if you look at if you look at the basic picture, the towns are voting for Reform in big numbers. The cities, it's more split so far. If you look at Southampton, for example, Labour lost Southampton, but there were 7 seats gained by Reform, but 4 also by the Green. So it's a question of Labour's vote splintering off to the right with Reform, but also splintering off very much to the left with the Greens. So there's a dual attack, almost a pincer movement upon Labour's vote.
Voters moving away from the centre.
Yeah, very, very much so. It's a trend we've seen for a while. Reform went into this election very, very bullish. If you look at the percentage polling, Labour's polling is around, in the opinion polls, around 20%. That's 15 percentage points down from where it was when these seats were last fought in 2022. You're bound to take a big hit if you're in that sort of polling territory.
John, we're a results service in a way this morning, but we're also trying to give a bit of analysis. Help people with one thing. When they see the number of seats that Reform have won, they might be automatically thinking, well, that means they'll take control of councils. It gets a bit more complicated, doesn't it? Because that is very much not a direct equation.
Yeah, that would be a mistake to make, because what is happening is that Labour has big majorities on a lot of these councils, and in the bulk of the councils that are being contested, 136, more than 80, only 1/3 of the council seats are up for grabs. There's a few with half. All the London councils and about 20 others have all-out elections. But where there's only 1/3 of the seats up for grabs, Labour can afford to take the hit in terms of council control in some cases, or they'll go into no overall control. We won't see, at the end of today, Reform controlling a huge swathe of our councils. That's not what it's about. Reform will gain a very large number of seats, but not a very large number of councils, because there is an insulation effect. The fact is that Labour has sufficient majorities for those councils simply to go into no overall control, or Labour retain a few.
John, I know you're going to stay with us throughout the morning. There'll be results coming in, some, as you say, slightly more complicated than others. So thank you, and we'll see you throughout the morning.
Pleasure.
Drink lots of coffee.
That's always the trick, isn't it?
It's 13 minutes to 7. Sarah's taking a look at the weather, as she will be doing for us all morning. You're taking us around the country as well. Where have you taken us this morning?
Yeah, good morning to you. This is the view looking over the Thames in London, Hammersmith at the moment. And this picture really sums up what we've got nationally, which is quite a mix of a little bit of clear sky, some early sunshine around, but also some thicker cloud in places. And there will be a few showers coming out of that cloud too. But not all of us are going to be seeing them. And the theme over the next few days really is going to be quite a contrast in our temperature. So it's turning warmer in the south, cooler in the north, where those air masses meet. There'll be some outbreaks of rain, but it was a very dry April. It's been a dry start to May in some places in the south and east, so we could do with a little bit of rain, and there is some in the forecast. It's driven largely by this cold front here, which is going to be really slow moving through today into tomorrow as well, slowly shifting southwards and eastwards. So that's bringing a bit more cloud and a few spots of showery rain to parts of southern Scotland, Northern Ireland first thing, the Isle of Man too. Further south, we've also got a few showers developing for Wales, into central southern England as well, but many places across England and Wales should avoid most of the showers. There'll be a few developing close to the east coast later on as well. But it will be brighter across the north of Scotland compared to recent days. Temperatures here only about 11 degrees, but for most of us, we're looking at 14 to 19. The average for May is around 13 to 17. So a touch above average in the south, but a little below average towards the north. And then as we move through this evening and tonight, we'll see that rain continuing across parts of northern England, into southern Scotland as well. Should turn a little bit clearer across Wales, southern England and across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Quite a cold night to come here. Towns and cities holding up at 4 or 5 degrees, but it'll be a touch colder than that in the more rural spots. So a little bit of frost likely across parts of Scotland. Further south, though, for most of us, it's looking frost-free, and a bit like this morning, could be 1 or 2 misty patches around. Now, tomorrow, we've still got this slow-moving cold front. We've also got a frontal system down towards the southwest, throwing a few showers to the likes of the Channel Islands, perhaps into Cornwall as well. Then we've got this more persistent rain that's going to sit across the Scottish borders, Northumberland, and that's going to stretch down with some showers reaching the Midlands into North Wales later in the day. But look at the difference in temperature. London, 21 degrees in the sunshine, but for Newcastle, only 10 degrees there, where you're stuck under the cloud with the outbreaks of rain. So as we head through Saturday night into Sunday, this is the air mass, and you can see the blue colours spreading more widely across the map. So that's the colder air reaching a little bit further south into Sunday. Still quite a bit of dry weather on the cards, a few showers in the far northwest, and you might get the odd spot of drizzle coming out of this cloud in the south. But a change in wind direction, a little bit more of a northerly influence. So Sunday does look the cooler day of the weekend, but there should be some spells of sunshine. Most places look dry for the start of next week, and then it turns rather unsettled with showery rain on the way from midweek onwards. Naga and Charlie.
Don't like where that weather's going, Sarah. I just put it out there.
Might not like it, but it's what's on
It's
the
what you're
way,
giving
and we
us. It's what
do
you're giving
need it.
us. We've got no
Afraid so.
choice. Thanks, Sarah. See you later.
Let's see, time now is 6:50. Today is Sir David Attenborough's 100th birthday, and the BBC is marking the milestone with a special concert at London's Royal Albert Hall.
Our arts and media correspondent David Sillito has been talking to Sir David's friends and colleagues ahead of the celebrations.
And to that, he must fight.
A rattlesnake can survive here on only a dozen or so meals in a year, and that's pretty efficient.
Sir David Attenborough.
These Icelandic volcanoes.
She herself is a land crab. If you want to understand the magic...
Is this one you shot?
Yeah.
Talk to Gavin.
I remember every shot in this.
Gavin Thurston's been part of the Attenborough team for nearly 40 years and took me back to a moment in Africa.
So where are you at the moment in this?
We're both kind of nipple deep in water, and as this chimpanzee went into the water, it stands up and they don't like getting their hands wet, and puts his arms in the air. And then
there it is.
We start wading. Yeah.
Suddenly, an image from our remote past comes vividly to light. The time when our distant ancestors, in order to keep up with the changing environment, had to wade and keep their heads above water in order to find food.
Even though he's kind of got his back to the chimpanzee, he's totally aware of that, he's totally aware of the camera eye line, and he nails that piece in one.
That crucial moment when our far distant ancestors took a step away from being apes and a step towards humanity.
Are you saying you couldn't get the chimpanzee to do another take?
We'd run out of bananas by then. Yeah.
And Pam Jackson's working relationship goes back to life on Earth in the 70s.
A question I have been asked throughout my lifetime with the BBC was, is David Attenborough really as nice as he appears to be on the television? I always say to people, if it's possible, he's even nicer.
Noticed amongst these Galapagos animals.
On the road, it was making sure everybody was where they should be at the right time.
The South American rainforest, the richest and most varied assemblage of life in the world.
And his hair, we'd nip him with a comb. He didn't like it. Try and comb his hair.
I've got something to show you here. Let me get it.
And he continues to be an inspiration. This is Liz Bonnen.
I already know what this is because he's lying down.
A natural history presenter and filmmaker, showing me one of her favourite Attenborough moments.
And what an astonishment it is. Surely one of the wonders of the natural world. The bower has been completely roofed over, thatched with these stems of orchids.
You know this off by heart, don't you?
Yeah, I think I do.
Around here, behind me, there are black fruits, all of which has been bought specially by the bird.
Perfection. I always feel like it's a warm, okay, here comes David. It's like a warm blanket. It feels, the whole experience is going to make me feel better about life, about the planet, and about people.
And no one understands that better than Alistair Fothergill, who, over the last 40 years, has helped capture moments like this.
What did you make of him when you first met him?
If you're working with him, you have to rise to his standards. And that was one of, for me, the great challenges and pleasures of working with him. He's never lost his temper with me. He occasionally gives you the famous Attenborough stare, which basically means, come on, boys, you know, get your act together.
How do you feel with that stare?
You feel, get your act together. You know, that's what you feel. David has seen more of the natural world than any human being that's ever lived on our planet. But in that same time, he's seen more change than has ever happened in our planet. And also, one of the things he used to say to me was, I am not the star. The animals are the stars.
Yeah, this is much more recently, so this is...
And this is you again, is it?
Yeah.
But even now, on his 100th birthday...
I mean, he's just got better and better and better through his whole career.
Even though there are more wild foxes in London than almost any other big city, it's still a huge thrill.
And what's amazing with David, he's still got this passion for wildlife.
The boyish joy is there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here it is, the Harvey's Mouse. Welcome to your new home. There you go.
And just a reminder, you can watch the special programmes of David Attenborough's 100 Years on Planet Earth. That's on BBC One, 8:30 tonight, and on the iPlayer.
We'll be back with you with the headlines at 7 o'clock. Find out what's happening with the news, travel and weather wherever you are this morning.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. Well, the results from the local elections across London are coming in. More than 6 million Londoners were eligible to vote, with all 32 London boroughs up for election. More than 1,800 councillors are being elected, as well as directly elected mayors in Croydon, Hackney, Lewisham, Newham and Tower Hamlets. Well, one of the key battlegrounds in this election is Havering. Jonathan Josephs has spent the night at the count and has just sent this update.
Looks like it's been a rather good night for reform on all accounts here at Havering. They need 28 of the 55 seats to take control of a London borough for the first time, and they're making a good start, taking 4 of the first 6 seats to be declared. Now, at the moment, it's been run by Havering Residents Associations as a minority administration, but it seems like that won't be the case for much longer. It seems that Reform have benefited from the Greens taking some of the votes away from the Residents Association, but there's been a pretty high turnout, so it looks like the declaration, the final declaration, is still some way off.
Well, our political editor, Carl Mercer, is in the BBC London election hub this morning and has been keeping an eye on the situation overnight. Carl, over to you.
Yeah, plenty to keep an eye on, and in the last 10 minutes or so we've had a result in one of the key seats in London, Westminster Council. The Conservatives have taken that back. Remember, Labour won it for the first time back in 2022. And that follows on from this result where, again, Labour won Wandsworth off the Tories back in 2022. The Conservatives now the biggest party there. Other results we've got: Richmond upon Thames, the Lib Dems holding that and winning all 54 seats on that council. That's one of their strong councils. Move on to another one of their real strongholds, Sutton, just down the river. 51 of the 54 seats they took on there, but a couple of seats for Reform there, interestingly, as well. But they didn't take Merton. This was one of the Lib Dems' key targets in the capital. Ed Davey had promised and said, we really want to take it. Actually, what happened? Labour got 32 seats. The Lib Dems quite a long way back there, actually, on just 19. And as you say, we heard a little bit earlier from Jonathan, didn't we? Waiting on that result in Havering, but it does look like Reform are going to take Havering, which would mean that that would be the first time Reform have run a council in the capital.
OK, Carl, thanks very much indeed for that update. Big news from Westminster there this morning. Now, onto the weather. Today we'll see areas of cloud, bringing scattered showers. These will be light and isolated in the morning, but in the afternoon they'll turn heavier with a small risk of lightning, a top temperature of 19 degrees Celsius. OK, that is it for now. You can, of course, see more results, reaction and analysis from the local elections as it comes in by heading over to the BBC News website and the app as well. And BBC Radio London is taking the results in their breakfast programme too. Bye for now.
Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Naga Manchetti and Charlie States.
Our headlines today. Labour loses hundreds of seats as the first results come through in the local elections in England.
It's been a night of substantial success for Reform, winning more than 300 seats and gaining its first council of the election.
People are turning out, and they've turned out to repaint the red wall the turquoise wall.
Labour's already lost control of several councils, including Redditch, Tamworth, Hartlepool, Exeter and Tameside.
Yes, on the doorstep, it has been tough, there has been frustration, and we will have to pick up pace and really hear the public.
It's been a bad night for Labour, living down to what were already very low expectations. But what does it mean for the future of Sir Keir Starmer?
There have been gains for the Lib Dems and the Greens. Throughout the morning, we'll be speaking to the main parties in England and assessing their fortunes.
Counting in the Scottish and Welsh parliamentary elections begins in the next few hours. We'll be there with the latest.
Also on the programme, another case of a British national with suspected hantavirus has been announced, the third linked to the cruise ship MV Hondius.
And here it is. It's a harvest mouse. Welcome to your new home. There you go.
And we'll celebrate Sir David Attenborough on his 100th birthday.
And we've got a bit of sunshine in the forecast today, particularly for northern Scotland, parts of southern England too. More cloud elsewhere with a few showers, but I will bring you all the weather details throughout the programme.
Good morning. You're watching Breakfast with Naga Munchetty and Charlie States. Let's take you through some of the news this morning as those election results come in. Labour has suffered significant losses overnight as the first results from England's local election are announced. At this stage in the morning, it's very early days, but we only have a handful of results, but the picture is emerging.
Now, more than 5,000 seats across 136 English councils are being fought for, as well as 6 mayoral contests. It's still early, and there are lots of counts taking place still. But so far, it does appear to have been a very difficult night for Sir Keir Starmer. Reform UK has benefited at Labour's expense.
So let's take a closer look at what some of the results show us so far. It's Reform UK that has seen the biggest gain, 335 seats, you can see on the chart there. Labour has so far had a huge loss of 247. Moving on to the Liberal Democrats, gaining 35. A difficult morning for the Conservatives, losing 127. And the latest numbers show the Green Party has gained 25 seats. Independent councillors have lost 16.
So that's a look at the individual seats. Let's see what that means in terms of councils as a whole. So, Labour down by 8. That's the biggest shift in terms of council control. Those biggest shifts actually are expected later, along with the first waves of results from Scotland and Wales. Now, our political correspondent Damien Grammaticus can bring us the story of the night so far.
And I do hereby declare that Shaw Graham Ball is duly elected.
Reform seizing control of a council. Here, Newcastle-under-Lyme in Staffordshire, taking 10 Conservative seats and 17 Labour ones in the process. The party's deputy leader, Richard Tice, enjoying the moment. Tamworth, also in Staffordshire, was an early sign of things to come. Labour and the Conservatives lost every seat they were defending to Reform. Richard Tice was here too.
The turnout in many areas is up, and that's great because it's sometimes not easy in local elections, but people are turning out, and they've turned out to repaint the red wall the turquoise wall.
In Hull, more Reform gains saw the Lib Dems lose overall control and Labour 8 of the 9 seats they were defending. Here they said the message from the doorstep was clear.
So many people mentioned that they would not vote for Keir Starmer or for anybody that represented Keir Starmer. And obviously, as a local Labour councillor, that's what they saw me as. I'm his representative in our area.
In Redditch in Worcestershire, another 6 Labour seats lost to Reform and control of another council gone. The same story was repeated in Hartlepool to the dismay of the local Labour MP.
I think we need change at the top of the Labour Party. I think the best thing the Prime Minister could do is address the nation tomorrow and set a timetable for an orderly transition, and also make sure that in that transition the widest talent pool possible can participate.
The Conservatives too have been losing seats to Reform, and these elections look set to confirm that the dominance of the traditional major parties is weakening. For others, there's been something to celebrate. The Lib Dems gained control here in Stockport, and they did the same in Portsmouth too.
Lisa Smart, Lib Dem MP for Hazel Grove. You are dancing in front of me.
Dancing. Lib Dems have won control of Stockport Council, and this is such a victory for the people of Stockport. I couldn't be prouder of the team. We have got an amazing team who have been delivering what the people of Stockport have been asking for.
The Greens have picked up several wins too, like here in Exeter, where they took 3 seats. Modest gains, but it meant they helped end Labour's control of this council too. There's no doubt, though, whose night this has been, reforms. But there are thousands more council seats in England to be decided, along with all the votes in Scotland and Wales too. Damon Grammaticus, BBC News.
Let's talk to our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman. Henry's at Downing Street for us this morning. Good morning, Henry. Not a great night for the Labour Party.
Morning, Naga. I think we can go further than that. A bad night for the Labour Party. Let's just emphasise again, this is only a partial picture so far, and it's only English councils, nothing from Scotland or Wales yet. But that picture makes for very bleak viewing for the Labour Party as they digest these results this morning. The Labour Party has lost more than half of the seats which it went into last night defending, where results have been declared so far. Less than 2 years after winning a landslide at Westminster, the Labour Party is now losing votes almost everywhere. It is a very bad position for a party of government to find itself in.
So, Henry, in terms of the other parties, what are they doing? How have they done?
Well, the main beneficiary, as you were hearing from Damien there, has been Reform UK. They are doing very well in various parts of the country, but especially in the north of England, in areas which strongly voted to leave the European Union, well, almost 10 years ago now. They've also gained at the expense of the Conservative Party. And while the Conservatives have just gained a council in London from Labour, Westminster Council, the general picture for them is not very rosy. In fact, part of the story here is not just about the declining Labour vote, it's about the declining vote for the two-party duopoly, which has run Britain essentially for a century. That is a really interesting trend to watch. Liberal Democrats, it's been a night so far of consolidation, really. They gained control, as you were hearing there, of a couple of councils, but also lost control of another one. And then for the Green Party, they will be pleased with some of the gains they've made, and they seem to have gained quite a lot of votes from the Labour Party, but it's not really translating into great strides forward in terms of councillors so far, but many of their main targets will declare later today.
Henry, you know, there's been a lot of speculation, as you're well aware, of Sir Keir Starmer's leadership, his position as leader of the Labour Party and position as Prime Minister. What does all this point to at this moment in time?
It makes his position more fragile, unquestionably. I've already heard from Labour MPs this morning who are furious and are considering their options in terms of whether to seek to find a way to force him out. But what I don't think there is some clear, coordinated, prefab plan that they are going to take off the shelf and start using this morning. I think if anything happens, it will be much more chaotic than that. One thing that I've learned since I spoke to you an hour ago is the Prime Minister is going to come out fighting this morning. We will hear from him actually fairly soon. He's in this building behind me right now, but fairly soon he's going to go to one of the relatively brighter spots of Labour's night. He will make clear that he is not in denial, that he gets that these are very bad results, and he will vow to change the country faster than currently. But whether that's going to be enough for Labour MPs, I think is too soon to say.
OK. Henry, thanks very much for that at the moment. We'll keep an eye out for the Prime Minister as well. Henry Zeffman, our chief political correspondent.
So, Henry there talking about the big picture, talking about the Prime Minister, hearing from him a little later, no doubt. But we're going to take a closer look at some of those results that have come in, some in just the last few minutes as well. There's been a number of terrible results for Labour, it has to be said. One of them came in Thameside in Greater Manchester. Let's take a look in detail at that result. It's an area of historic strength for the party. It's where the former deputy leader Angela Rayner's constituency is. Labour has held a majority on the council since 1979, but not anymore. No overall control there. If we take a look at the change in seats, Labour down by 16, and it's Reform which is hoovering up that support up, as you can see, by 18. That's the change since 2023. You can see in that graph there. It isn't just the North West where Labour has struggled. Let's have a look at the results from Southampton, another place where Labour has lost control of the council, and the Conservatives also suffered. So Reform benefited here, gaining 8 seats, but so too did the Liberal Democrats, up 2, and the Greens up 4. You can see the seats on the far side of the equation there. And it's very clearly marked there. You can see on all these graphs, sometimes it looks very, very apparent, the change that has taken place. And Southampton, definitely one of those places. One of the key results so far is in Newcastle-under-Lyme, where Reform has taken control of its first council. So look at the scale of the party's gains. It's gone from having no seats to 27. It's worth repeating that one, isn't it? Gone from no seats to 27. And as you can see in the chart there, 17 down for Labour. It's very much at the expense of both Labour and the Conservatives.
Well, you just heard there from Charlie that Reform UK has won its first council of these elections. Our reporter Jenny Aitken is there for us. Jenny, we were with you just as you were waiting to see if that threshold had been passed. It happened soon after we spoke to you. I imagine the reaction there from Reform UK is one of delight. What about everyone else?
That's right, Naga. Of course, a long night, as you can see, all packing up here, and that has led to a new dawn here in Newcastle-under-Lyme with this new Reform administration. They were pushing for power here, and with those 27 seats they ended up with out of the 44, they have certainly done it and surpassed even some of the polls. Now, turnout was relatively high here, about 47%. That is unusually high for these kind of local elections. That's possibly what led to a lengthy count, why we're still here, and some recounts as well. And that also could have well worked in Reform's favour as well, as Richard Tice has mentioned. He was here earlier as well, of course, sort of rallying the troops, who of course have done really well here. You mentioned those other parties, Naga. It has been a disastrous night for Labour. Councillors saying to me, you know, it's been a humbling experience, is what they've referred it to. Just 2 councillors left here. And, of course, a Labour MP serves this area as well. And the Tories, of course, took a drubbing, looking to form the administration on the council. So a very different political very different political makeup here and landscape. And I think it might be time for some of us to go to bed.
Grab a cup of tea and a hot sarnie, Jenny. You've earned it overnight. Enjoy it. Jenny Aitken there, our reporter for us in Newcastle-under-Lyme. Take care.
So in London, Labour has managed to hold on to councils in Ealing, Merton and Hammersmith and Fulham. Merton has been Labour-controlled since 2014. Let's go to Harry Lowe, who's our reporter there this morning. Morning to you, Harry. Tell us the tale of the night from where you are.
Yeah, good morning, Charlie. This was a really high hope for the Lib Dems. They were hoping that they were going to take control of this council and, for the first time in their history, control 4 London boroughs simultaneously. It just didn't pan out that way. Despite the fact that Labour's vote share went down, they actually increased their number of seats by 1 to 32. The Liberal Democrats have performed better than ever before in Merton, increasing their number of seats by 2 to 19. Bad night for the Tories, though. They lost 3 seats, including their leader. They've only got 4 left. And they have had their worst ever performance. 2 seats went to the local residents' association. It was flip-flopping. It was a bit topsy-turvy at one point. It looked as if Lib Dems may be on the march, and then the Lib Dems lost a seat to Labour, and it wasn't quite clear who was going to come out on top, but it became a wall of red in the end. We did have some early drama here when one of the Liberal Democrat councillors passed out on the floor just behind us. He was actually helped to his feet by a Reform UK candidate who was a doctor, and he went home safe and well in the end. But a good night here in Merton for Labour.
Sounds like a dramatic moment, Harry.
Certainly was, yeah. I mean, it was a bit of a kerfuffle. I don't think anybody was expecting it to happen. And I mean, I must say that was the nearest any Reform UK candidate got here to a Liberal Democrat seat, because they did not pick up any seats in this part of the country. But this seat really has bucked the trend, really, from Labour's point of view, and in terms of Reform not really making a dent at all. So it's interesting in that regard that this seat has really, from a Labour point of view, it's gone quite well. Their candidates here told us that they'd had good news on the doorstep and that they were confident and bullish in advance, and it kind of panned out that way, which is surprising when you hear what you've been hearing and reflecting on the programme so far this morning.
Harry, thanks very much.
Fairly strong performance for the Green Party so far, gaining 25 seats in places such as Salford, Oxford, Exeter, where Labour lost control. The party's key targets are in London, particularly Hackney in Lewisham, where the party is expected to have the best chance of gaining control of the council. Let's talk to Green Party MP Sian Berry. Sian Berry, good morning to you. You are smiling this
We are all
morning.
smiling, yes.
Is this much better than you expected?
So far, it seems to be rather in line with expectations for us. We're expecting a very good night, but about 90% of the seats where we are really expecting to win have not been counted yet. So we're looking at really good early results. We've had breakthroughs, like you say, in places that we've never won before. Places like Chorley and Salford. We've seen really good gains in places like Exeter, Southampton, Reading, Oxford. It's looking good for the north. We're expecting some more gains up there later on, and obviously all of London still to go, and high expectations and really hard work been done by the Greens across the capital city for years now, but also building up towards this last few months has been really huge. We've had so many young people out on the streets coming and joining the Greens and then immediately going out and campaigning on the streets. It's been a very enthusiastic campaign, and I think we can look forward to much more later on.
How concerned were you in the run-up to this this election, about the comments made by Zach Polanski and him having to row back on certain reposts on social media?
I think everyone, and Zach himself, recognises that was a misstep for which he's apologised. There are far bigger problems in the Labour and
hold on a
Conservative
moment.
parties.
Sorry. I know he's apologised. I'm asking how concerned you were about that affecting how voters would vote.
There have been questions on the doorstep, and our people have been working really hard to make sure that everybody knows that we are working really hard in their local area, and that doesn't necessarily represent us. But there are far bigger problems for Labour and Conservatives out there in the country. We've seen them losing hundreds and hundreds of seats, and we're looking to gain from Labour, from Conservatives, and importantly, be a really hopeful challenger to reform and their very negative campaigning across the country. It's something we showed in Gorton and Denton, where everybody thought that Reform were going to be the leaders, but we came through with an incredible candidate and a positive campaign. That's the kind of thing we want to see more of across the country today.
So in terms of where the split has come, and obviously, as you say, we've seen voters move from Labour, from Conservative, from Lib Dems, to the further ends of the political spectrum, I think it's fair to say, to the Greens and to Reform UK. Much to Reform UK. I mean, a gain of 339 seats. You've gained 25, had some obviously already, percentages are different. But why do you think more gravitating to Reform UK than Green?
I think, well, Reform have had an awful lot to throw at this campaign. We have people power in the Greens, and maybe that takes a bit longer to have effect, but we've shown in the last 6 months the extent to which we can attract people, and I don't think we're extreme. I think we're where most people in the country are in terms of things like investing in housing and public services and just trying to make the very richest in the country pay their fair share. These are very, very mainstream opinions out there. It's Labour and the Conservatives who've abandoned that. It is Reform who are picking up the populist message from the right, and I think the Greens have a solid place in the environmentalist, in the left, in the social justice that most people want to see.
I don't think the Labour or Conservatives, although we'll speak to them later, would say that they've abandoned investing in public spending.
I think austerity has gone on for far too long. There are young people out there who have known nothing but cutbacks in their public services, in their schools. They know what's going on in society, and they know there are answers to fix it. Not silver bullets, but there are genuine policies that could be pursued that Labour simply haven't brought in during their nearly 2 years in office. And that level of disappointment when people were promised change is driving people away from Labour. And the Greens are picking up their votes, and in an entirely sensible fashion, putting forwards policies that really ought to have been in the Labour manifesto, and some of the policies that were in the Labour manifesto that they've just abandoned since then.
Sian Berry from the Green Party, thank you very much for joining us on BBC Breakfast.
It's just come up to 20 minutes past 7. As voters in Scotland wait to find out the results of the parliamentary election, the big question is whether the Scottish National Party will win an historic 5th term in power.
So the count's set to begin later this morning. Our political correspondent David Wallace-Lockhart has been looking at what could happen.
This was how the constituencies in Scotland looked in 2021. There's a lot of SNP yellow on that map, but despite that, they fell just shy of a majority at Holyrood, which requires 65 seats. That's difficult to achieve under Scotland's more proportional voting system. Here's the full results from 5 years ago. But the SNP reckon they can get there this time around. So let's look at some key battle constituencies. And remember, there have been boundary changes in Scotland. We're starting in the capital, Edinburgh Central. From 4th place last time, the Scottish Greens fancied their chances, with former party co-leader Lorna Slater taking on SNP Cabinet Minister, the incumbent Angus Robertson. Boundary changes here have shifted several strong Labour areas into the seats, so local Labour councillor James Dalgleish makes this an intriguing contest. But this could mark the Scottish Greens' first ever constituency win. To the west is Rutherglen and Cambuslang. This is a Labour must-win if the party is to have any sort of revival. SNP incumbent Claire Hawkey and Labour's Monica Lennon are the two to watch here. Let's head to Scotland's largest constituency, to Caithness, Sutherland and Ross. It's almost as big as Northern Ireland. It's currently held by the SNP's Marie Todd, but this is the sort of seat where the Lib Dems, who can be strong in the Highlands, think they're in with a shot with their candidate, David Green. What about Reform UK? Well, let me take you to fishing country, to Bamshire and Bucking Coast. This could be the scene of a three-way fight. Once represented by Alex Salmond, the seat's been SNP since 1999. But Karen Adams' majority is now fewer than 800 votes. It's the Tories' number 2 target seat, but their candidate, James Adams, will have to see off Reform UK, who think they have a shot here with their candidate, Conrad Ritchie. This is probably the sort of seat that the SNP must win if they're to secure an outright majority. So there's just a handful of seats to keep an eye out for in Scotland.
So let's have a look at Wales. The new voting system there means there could be huge shifts in the Senate as results of the election come in. Our correspondent Thomas Morgan in Cardiff for us this morning. Morning to you, Thomas. We're still waiting for the count to start.
We are. That's going to start around 9 a.m. But we've heard from several Welsh Labour sources that are saying they are predicting they're going to be losing Wales for the first time since devolution. In fact, first time in 100 years, really. Labour have dominated here for essentially in Westminster and Senate elections. So this would be an historical result if they were not to be the biggest party. Plaid Cymru and Reform are vying for that top spot. So it'll be really interesting to see who can get the majority of the seats and how they'll be able to form a government, and crucially, how they'll be able to vote to form a new First Minister as well. When it comes to Labour, we've heard from several Welsh Labour sources, former Welsh Labour ministers, that are saying, well, this is Westminster's fault. This has been the hardest election to be fought here. It seems to be more about Downing Street and immigration than about Wales. Former First Minister Carwyn Jones was on Radio 4 this morning saying that actually he thought this had gone really badly and that the Labour were not now the party for the people of Wales. However, there is definitely now a split in Labour because Welsh MPs are saying they're not expecting a challenge on Sir Keir Starmer's leadership in London. But let's be honest, this is going to be a huge result whichever way it goes later on today.
Thomas, for the moment, thank you.
It's 23 minutes past 7. Perhaps you want to step away from election news and perhaps you want to go outside, get some fresh air. Sarah can tell us where to go because that looks lovely. A wonderful walk by the water.
Yeah, glorious, isn't it? Good morning to you. This is the view on the banks of the River Cam in Cambridge this morning. Some sunshine around there. Other areas are waking up to a little bit more in the way of cloud, but for many of us, a lot of dry weather as we head through the course of the day. Mostly cloudy conditions, spells of blue sky and sunshine working through that cloud. Few showers here and there, but they're going to be very hit and miss today, and temperatures are going to be on the rise towards the south at least. We've got low pressure to the north of the UK pushing its way eastwards, and this trailing cold front, it's been with us for a couple of days and it's going to be there today into tomorrow as well. So it's positioned across parts of the southern Scotland towards the Isle of Man, Northern Ireland at first too, so some showery rain coming out from that cold front. Also down towards Wales and central southern England. There'll be a scattering of pretty heavy showers. Small chance there could be a little bit of lightning in some of those later on. But in the sunshine, southeast England getting up to 19, possibly 20 degrees. And it's a bright day with more sunshine across the north of Scotland, but still 1 or 2 showers around here. Temperatures about 11 to 19 degrees. Heading through tonight, we've still got this cold front with us, so some more outbreaks of rain for parts of southern Scotland, northern England as well. Either side of that, most places dry. Could be a touch of frost across rural parts of Scotland. It'll be milder and frost-free further south. Into tomorrow, this cold front's still with us. It's the dividing line between cooler air in the north, warmer air in the south. Where those air masses meet, still some rain across northern England towards Wales as well. Most places, either side of that, looking dry. But look at those temperature differences. 21 in London, just 10 degrees in Newcastle. Naga and Charlie.
Sarah, thank you very much.
Time now is 25 minutes past 7. We know that there are 5 confirmed hantavirus cases, and we've learnt this morning, just in the last hour or so, that of those 5, there are now 3 British nationals with suspected hantavirus in connection with an outbreak on board the cruise ship MV Hondius. The patient is now on a remote South Atlantic island.
2 other British men have confirmed cases. One remains in a stable condition in the Netherlands, while the other remains in intensive care after being flown to South Africa.
Now, 5 cases have been confirmed, as I said, and the ship is due to reach Tenerife in the coming days. Our correspondent Guy Hedgecoe has more.
This is Granadilla port in Tenerife. It's where the Hondius cruise ship is due to arrive. The Spanish government says that taking in the boat is a humanitarian and legal obligation, and that the Canary Islands are equipped to manage this situation. But many local residents are uneasy.
The workers are really worried because they haven't been given any information at all. They haven't been told about safety measures, whether they're going to have to wear face masks or protective equipment.
I think the most sensible thing would be for them to think about us and not allow that ship into the Canary Islands.
We have to be very careful. People in those protective suits should go in and help them. I still don't think it's a good idea, though, but people do need help, so that's it.
Dock workers, fearful for their safety, have called a protest for today, demanding the authorities provide clearer information about the boat's arrival and the security measures that will be used. They have even threatened to prevent the cruise ship from approaching. The local government has criticised ministers in Madrid for allowing the boat to travel here, as have opposition parties who have described the situation as chaotic. The government insists tight safety measures will be taken. The ship will not dock directly in Tenerife. Instead, it will anchor off the coast and its passengers will be ferried to the island and will have no contact with local people. Preparations are also being made to repatriate passengers once they're given the medical all-clear. Spain said that officials were in talks with the UK to send a repatriation flight for British nationals to Tenerife. Guy Hedgecoe, BBC News, Tenerife.
Let's talk to our health editor, Hugh Pym, now. Hugh, hello. Can you clear this up? So we know there are 5 cases of 5 people with hantavirus. Are they confirmed? And now we know that of those, there are 3 British nationals suspected to have it?
Yes, Naga, the issue is absolutely right. 5 confirmed cases, but 3 more are suspected. So we're basically assuming that they have got it. So it's 8 in total. But this morning, just in the last hour, we've learned about a 9th. And that is a British national on the island of Tristan da Cunha, a remote Atlantic island. And we don't know any more details about this person, but it seems that they were on the cruise ship Hondius, which left Argentina and visited various places on the way up towards Cape Verde. We know that the cruise ship stopped at St Helena and up to 30 passengers left the ship, not knowing about the virus at that stage. It was a planned thing that they got off the boat at that point. And we know that 2 of them were British nationals who flew home and are now self-isolating. But just to clear it up, this latest suspected case is somebody who we assume got off the boat at Tristan da Cunha, and it now has suspected hantavirus. and the other British nationals that you mentioned, one is in South Africa, we knew about in hospital, and another one in the Netherlands. So this new piece of information about this British national on Tristan da Cunha has just emerged, and we're told that this individual is being supported. It's quite a remote island. It's a British overseas territory. St Helena is not that far away relatively, and there will be medical support provided, we're told, on Tristan da Cunha, and further medical staff are being sent out there, if they're not already there, to help out in these cases. In the meantime, the British nationals on board the cruise ship are heading towards Tenerife. We're told that they will be met there and a charter flight will be provided to get them home. And that's being provided by the Foreign Office, probably from Sunday onwards, but they'll have to self-isolate when they get home, maybe for up to 6 weeks.
Hugh, thanks very much for that. Hugh Pym, our health editor, thank you.
Time now is 7:30. The United States and Iran have exchanged fire in the Strait of Hormuz. Despite the attacks, President Trump has insisted the ceasefire between the two countries remains in place. Let's find out more with our correspondent Caroline Davis, who's in Dubai for us. Caroline, very good morning to you. Not for the first time, it's a slightly confusing picture, isn't it? On the one hand, we've got an exchange of fire. We've got the reiteration of the statement that the ceasefire is in place, and then the talks, in theory, these proposals being discussed.
So all of this happening at the same time, which makes it very difficult to know what direction any of this conflict is going to go in. As you say, we had these flashpoints, both sides, the US and Iran accusing the other of initiating this in the first instance. President Trump very clear, saying that the ceasefire was still in place. From the Iranian side, they said that the reason they started these attacks was because the US, they said, had violated the ceasefire by attacking a Iranian-flagged oil tanker that was in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, whether Iran now thinks that the ceasefire is still in place or not is unclear, but what we have heard is from some Iranian media that have suggested that things are now back to normal. So does that mean that this was a flashpoint that has now dissipated? Will it escalate again? And of course, we're still waiting to hear from the Iranians about what we understand is a US proposal that was put to them. So still could go in any direction at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. A significant number of results have been coming in from the local elections across London, with 2 significant council losses for Labour so far. More than 6 million Londoners were eligible to vote, with all 32 London boroughs up for election, as well as directly elected mayors in Croydon, Hackney, Lewisham, Newham and Tower Hamlets. In the last couple of hours, Labour have lost control of Wandsworth Council and more recently Westminster Council. The new leader there says the planned pedestrianisation of Oxford Street was a key issue for voters.
Well, I think it was an issue locally, but also across London. It's not something that just Westminster have a view on. You know, access along Oxford Street is really difficult if you're elderly or if you've got a buggy, etc. There is no step-free access at Oxford Circus, and people are really worried about how they're just going to get around. It's a mile long, so it's not an easy street. So we're going to set up a legal fund, and we're going to explore how we can intervene and control the mayor and stand up for Westminster, because that's what's been missing.
Well, our political editor Carl Mercer is in the BBC London election hub this morning and is joined by Professor Tony Travis from the London School of Economics. Carl.
Yeah, and we're going to have a quick look at those results from Westminster together. You can see here the Tories won it actually by more than many people expected, 32 to 22. People thought it would be a much closer race than that. And we know, don't we, as you said, they lost Wandsworth as well, Labour. That's gone to no overall control. Tony, important results, you think?
I think these are very important results. The fact that Labour lost both of them and that the Conservatives have won them back. And this one in particular from Westminster, you can see that from, given the bad result they're having in other parts of the country, this will be seen by the Conservative leadership as really good.
Yeah, and something for them to hold on to. But for Labour, I think the challenge probably comes this afternoon, actually.
Absolutely. This afternoon, the inner boroughs where the Greens are the biggest challenge to Labour. We're going to start seeing boroughs like Islington and Camden and Lewisham and Hackney, and as they declare, we'll begin to discover how Labour are faring against a very different opponent.
Yeah, and that is the challenge, because Labour have been very concerned over it, haven't they?
They've been really concerned that the Greens could eat in significantly to their control of Inner London, and the mayoral counts as well in Lewisham and Hackney. Those are going to be very interesting to watch.
As is, Victoria, the situation in Havering, where we could get London's first ever Reform Council.
And lots more results to come. Carl, for now, thank you, and Tony too. OK, that takes us to the weather then. Today we'll see areas of cloud bringing scattered showers. These will be light and isolated in the morning, but in the afternoon they will turn heavier. And we also do have a small risk of some lightning today as well. We'll see a maximum temperature of around 19 degrees. OK, that is just about it for now. You can see more results, reaction, analysis from the local elections as it comes in. You can head over to the BBC News website. And of course, there's the BBC News app as well. BBC Radio London also taking the results live in their breakfast programme. We'll see you in half an hour. Bye-bye.
Welcome back, 24 minutes to 8. Good morning to you. You are watching Breakfast. Right, so let's bring you up to date with what we know so far when it comes to these elections. Labour suffered significant losses overnight. The first results from England's local elections have been announced. The first results, plenty more to come. More than 5,000 seats across 136 English councils are being fought for, as well as 6 mayoral contests. It is still early. There are lots of counts taking place. So far, it does look to have been a very difficult night for the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Reform UK has benefited largely at Labour's expense. We can take a look at some of the numbers and the early results in England. So, as I was saying, Reform UK, significant gain of seats, the biggest gain, 352. Labour, in contrast, has had a huge loss of 249, losing more than it now has. The Liberal Democrats gaining 35 seats, and so far 137 losses for the Conservatives. And the latest numbers show that the Green Party has gained 25, independent councillors losing out, losing 16 with just 20 remaining. So these are the individual seats. But if we take a look at what that means in terms of councils as a whole, Labour's down by 8, has lost 8 councils, control of 8 councils. The biggest shifts in terms of council control, we're expecting to see those a little later today, along with the first wave of results from Scotland and Wales. Let's talk about one of the key results. And so far, you would have been hearing on the programme, if you've been with us since 6 o'clock, is Newcastle under Lyme. And this is where Reform has taken control of its first council. So, gaining with 27 seats, gaining 27 seats. So from none to 27. And this is at the expense of both Labour and the Conservatives. Conservatives losing 10, Labour losing 17. It was a difficult night for the Labour Party in the northwest of England. This is Wigan. So you can see from the top the red saying that the Labour Party has held this. It is a traditional heartland for the party. But Reform won all 25 seats that were on offer. So, and Labour lost 22. Those 22 seats it was defending. Now, to put this into context, only a third of the total seats were up for election, which is why Labour keeps control of the council. However, the message is pretty clear. A rise of 25 seats for Reform there and a loss of 22 for the Labour Party. Now, in London, Labour's the dominant party, has been in the recent years. But the results so far, it is struggling in the capital as well as elsewhere in England this time around. So what this morning's numbers show, if we take a look at Wandsworth, so the grey meaning no overall control, because the Labour Party's lost control of Wandsworth Council. Unlike most results we have seen so far, though, it's not the Reform UK party that's picking up the seats. Here, it's the Conservatives picking up the seats with 29 and 28 for Labour.
So, of course, early stages of the local council results so far, but lots of changes. Let's get some expert guidance from Professor John Tongue, who's from the University of Liverpool. Morning to you, John. If ever there was I mean, this is quite a complicated set of results, isn't it? They're not straightforward. You don't see clear pictures, but we have definite gravitational pull towards Reform. Their results are just as they predicted, but we're seeing them for real now.
Yeah, Reform's results are spectacular in terms of the number of seats gained. It's not a case of reform sweeping wholesale towards control of the majority of our councils, because on the bulk of the councils being contested, there are only 1/3 of the seats up for grabs. That means that Labour can hang on to some councils or they go into no overall control, more a case of the latter. For Labour, though, this is a disaster on all current projections. They're on course for the worst result of any political party this century at a local election on various metrics. If you look at the percentage of seats they might lose, it might be in the 70% region. That's higher than any previous percentage. You look at the volume of seats. Admittedly, Labour had to defend an awful lot, but they could lose in excess of 1,500 seats. And in terms of the percentage vote share, it could be at a record low. So a really grim night for Labour, but it's not a case of huge changes in terms of the control of councils. It's more a case of Labour losing some that go into no overall control and Reform picking up a few.
There was a lot of talk, John, going into these elections of a significant change in British politics that we're witnessing for the first time in an election format, as in 5 parties. Not necessarily level pegging, but all with a part to play. Are you seeing that happening?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look where Labour has lost seats, it's, you know, if you look from the south, Exeter and Southampton, well, both Reform and the Greens made gains on those councils. Go to the Midlands and you've got Labour losses in Tamworth and Redditch, and then you've got places like Hartlepool and Thameside in the north. You really have multi-party Britain now. The Greens can expect to make further progress on a large number of London councils that are declaring later. Reform are doing very, very well in northern towns. And if you look at the combined Labour and Conservative percentage share of the vote, it will probably be at a record low by the end of today for any local election. So, you know, forget about the big 2 these days. You can talk about a big 5 in British politics.
And if you just look ahead a little bit for us, John, because as we say, it's only 7:42 in the morning. There's a lot of results still to come in. What are going to be the key points looking forward now across the morning and the rest of the day?
Well, the councils to look out for in particular are those where every single seat is up for grabs, and Reform hope to take places like Barnsley and Sunderland when they declare. Look out for the Greens in London. And the Conservative performance will be very interesting because, of course, Reform are damaging the Conservatives as well. But there is a bright spot for the Conservatives. They have managed to take Westminster back from Labour. So there's an awful lot to play for. It should be said we are still at a very early stage. And in terms of Scotland and Wales, well, that probably will be further bad news for Labour.
John, thank you. We'll see you throughout the morning.
We can talk more about Labour's significant losses now, as we've been explaining earlier and you've been hearing from John.
Yes, the Defence Secretary John Healey joins us now from Rotherham. Morning to you, Mr Healey. Thank you for your time this morning. Could you give us your analysis of what you've seen so far?
Good morning. Well, first, respect and recognition to all the candidates from all parties that have stood. It's a big step to offer yourself to election and offer yourself for the judgment of voters. And this has been a particularly hard campaign, especially for our Labour candidates. It's been a tough campaign and it's mixed results, but it's clear with too many councillors, too many good Labour people are losing their seats today. And I'm sorry for that, and I know that national sentiment has played a part in making their campaigns harder. The challenge now is to demonstrate that we can build back and that we can offer some hope for the future.
Can I ask you about Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister? Do you have full faith in him?
Yes. Look, I've seen Keir Starmer, I've worked with Keir Starmer as he has rebuilt Britain's position and influence in the world in the face of rising threats, greater Russian aggression, the problems in Ukraine, the need to strike trade deals. He is bringing to Britain the leadership we need in this uncertain times. He's also been elected as only the 4th leader in 120 years of Labour history to win an election. And I think at this time of great uncertainty, people expect their government and their Prime Minister to be getting on the job, working for them, trying to protect them, and not have a party turning in on itself and arguing amongst itself.
John Healey, he's the Prime Minister and the leader of your party is also the leader of the party, as I understand it, that's going to lose 70% of its seats in these local elections, according to the statistics that are coming so far. And that would mean that it's the worst result of any party in a local election since the turn of the century. So how is it that you can still have faith in a leader who's taken your party from winning a general election to that?
It is still early, and there have been places where we've held on to good Labour councils in London, in Hammersmith, or
I
in
just
Merton,
wonder, John Healey, if you could
places
address the
like Reading
question,
and
the question that I
Lincoln.
asked you. If you could address that question.
Well, what I'm saying is the results have still got to come in, and I don't want to dismiss how bad the results look set to be for Labour. But I was an MP elected 2 years before as part of that Labour government in 1999, which lost over 1,100 councillors, but then went on to win the 2001 and 2005 elections. And we can work our way back. We can do that if we're bold. We can do that if we are delivering on what the people voted for us to do as a Labour government. And we can do that if we offer greater hope for the future. And for me, you can't be hopeful for the future without being secure. And that's why we've got to tackle the global uncertainty with boosting national security and spending on defence, and we will. It's why we've got to deal with economic insecurity and show how we're acting on the cost of prices and business confidence, and we will. We've got to act on the insecurity of people feeling unsafe on the streets or online, and we will, and you'll see that next week in the King's speech, and you'll see that in the coming days as Keir Starmer sets out some of his plans to lead this country forward.
But John Healey, to what extent do you take on board the notion that in this set of elections, a lot of people have cast their verdict, and the verdict is that they have no faith in what you've been trying to do so far and what you're outlining for the future? We can see tangible evidence that what you're doing is not working, and people want to go elsewhere.
So people have voted at this election for local candidates. It has been affected by national sentiment. I recognise that. It's made the job of our good Labour candidates and councillors much harder. But this is also a recognition that we're only less than 2 years into 5 years of an elected government. It demonstrates to us that we have to be bolder, that we have to deliver faster, to bring the sense of change that people voted for, and we have to give people a sense of confidence and hope in the future.
John Healey, Defence Secretary, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
12 minutes to 8. One thing you can rely upon is that spring never gives you what you want. Be it rain or sunshine, Sarah, whatever you want, it will give you something different.
That is so true, and we've got a bit of it all thrown in the forecast today. Good morning. Mixed weather picture out there. Whilst some of us are waking up to blue sky and sunshine, other areas have got more clouds. So this is the picture in Powys, mid Wales, where there is that thicker cloud, and we are expecting some pretty sharp showers to develop across parts of Wales as we head through into the afternoon. So most places are fairly cloudy, but there'll be a bit of sunshine around. Over the next few days, though, you'll notice a real contrast north to south, certainly in terms of temperature. So some warmer air is moving in from the south, colder air is moving in from the north, and where those air masses meet, we're expecting a bit of showery rain around. So here's the cold front that's the dividing line between the cooler air in the north, the warmer air in the south, and it's mainly around this cold front that we're seeing some showers this morning across parts of southern Scotland. Northern Ireland's seen a few showers, Isle of Man too, but also further south, some showers developing across central southern England. They'll be quite heavy as they drift northwards into the Midlands, Wales too, but many of us are going to avoid those showers, and there'll be some brighter skies for southern England, East Anglia and across the northern half of Scotland. It's a brighter day compared to recent days with just a few showers. Temperatures around about 11 to 19 degrees north to south. So it is a touch warmer in the south, certainly, compared to the last couple of days. Now through this evening and tonight, the showers drift northwards, so drying up across Wales and the Midlands, but that rain persisting across much of northern England, far south of Scotland into the early hours of tomorrow. And it'll be quite a chilly night across Scotland. Touch of frost in more rural spots. Further south, milder, frost-free, but we could see 1 or 2 misty patches to start the weekend. So tomorrow we've still got this lingering weather front with us, the same one that's bringing the rain today, and we've also got a front down towards the far southwest, so that could throw a few showers into the likes of the Isles of Scilly, Cornwall, Channel Islands too. But then we've got that more persistent rain that's going to linger for a good part of the day around the Scottish borders, Northumberland, Yorkshire, stretching down towards central Wales as well. To the south and east of that frontal system, look at those temperatures, 20, 21 degrees quite widely, but contrast that to further north where we're looking at around 10 to perhaps 13 degrees. So it will feel quite chilly across parts of northern England where you're stuck under the cloud and rain. Now here's the colder air in the north, and as we head into Sunday, it spills its way a little bit further south. So that means we'll see a bit of a drop in temperatures for southern areas on Sunday compared to Saturday. A little bit more cloud here too, with the odd spot of drizzly rain. And there'll be a few showers working into the northwest of Scotland. But in between these two areas, spells of sunshine come through, lifting temperatures into the mid-teens. So fairly typical really for this time of year. Colder in the far north of Scotland. Looking ahead into next week, first few days of the week are looking mostly dry and settled, then it turns more changeable from midweek onwards. So typical spring weather for you over the next week or two. Back to you, Faye.
Sarah, thank you.
Sir David Attenborough is celebrating his 100th birthday today. The BBC's marking the milestone with a special concert at London's Royal Albert Hall.
Let's have a look at some of the most memorable moments from Sir David's career.
I'm standing in the middle of a frozen ocean.
In the Kalahari Desert.
200 miles south of Java.
Here in the South American rainforest.
And here in
Africa. I've been lucky enough to live through the golden age of natural history filmmaking. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
We can now show life on our planet in entirely new ways. Bring you closer to animals than ever before. And reveal new wildlife dramas for the very first time. It's impossible not to be impressed by the sheer grandeur and splendor and power of the natural world. There's so much more here than we ever imagined.
What an extraordinary creature. We now have a better understanding of the natural world than ever. We know how best to protect it for future generations. I can only hope that we will.
So much joy, amazing pictures too. Our arts and media correspondent David Silito is at the Royal Albert Hall. As you can see, David, it's such a spectacular setting there, and I dare say there will be a lot of emotion in the room tonight.
You're not kidding. I've had a look at what's planned this evening, a few surprises. For the last week or so, I've been chatting to friends and colleagues of Sir David, and they've all said the same thing. If it was his choice, he'd be at home tonight, having maybe a glass of wine, bar of chocolate, a nice quiet evening. However, friends, fans, colleagues, as you can see, have got different ideas. This place is absolutely thronging. It's going to be a celebration, a look back at his life, and also, well, thanks for an extraordinary life. I'm joined by one of those colleagues and also Tanya Steele of the World Wildlife Fund. Mike, you've known him for how many years?
Nearly 40.
The main question, as a filmmaker, and you've been in all sorts of places with him, what's he really like?
I'm afraid no shocks. He is what you'd expect and what you'd hope. Charming, delightful, funny, just a joy to be with. And of course, just a brilliant broadcaster with such a great storyteller with a great sense of timing.
Now, you have filmed many of those amazing pieces to camera. Tell us about the one we're going to have a look at. It involves a plant, not an animal.
Again, this is another piece of comic timing and how David has this really brilliant sense of theatre. A little cucumber ready to spread its seeds, and he has to just touch it with a stick and see what happens, and his reaction, amazing.
Okay, let's have a little look at that now.
All they need
is just a slight nudge.
That laugh, that's Sir David.
And 95 years old when he lying on the ground.
95?
Yeah, not many people would even be prepared to do it, but he just loved it. Oh yeah, I'll get down. Let me do this. In fact, we had to stop him. He kept poking more and more cucumbers, and they were all firing off. David, stop! We've got to shoot some more of those for the rest of the show. No, he just loved that sequence.
It seems extraordinary how many series or classic series. I mean, Planet Earth 2. This is all in his 90s, isn't it?
Yes, we were filming that right at the end of his 80s, so as he turned 90, took him up in a balloon 2 miles above the Alps to do the opening piece to camera. Absolutely up for it, and since then, has he done 6, 7? I can't remember how many series he's done now. We all used to joke, oh, he'll still be working when he's 100. He is. It's extraordinary.
People have always been saying, will there be another David Attenborough? There isn't, is there?
Impossible. He is a one-off, absolutely one-off.
Tanya, he was there at the inauguration of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, as it was back then, or World Wildlife, and his role in conservation. What is it? How would you put your finger on it?
I mean, I think David is the big man of conservation, and he has inspired hundreds of thousands of conservationists around the world, from school children right the way to you and I. So he's brought those stories into our homes and our lounges, and I think he shared both the power, the beauty, but also the fragility of nature, and with that, a responsibility for us to protect it for future generations.
Is there anyone else like him on the planet?
There is no one like David, and he can speak to so many people. I mean, David has helped us tell a very different story to some very different audiences. You and I will know David from sitting in our lounges and cinemas, but actually, he's spoken to finance leaders, world leaders around what we need to do for our planet and our fragility. I've stood with him in Washington at the International Monetary Fund with hundreds of finance ministers around the world, literally hanging off balconies to listen to what David has to say.
No one says no to a meeting with David.
They certainly don't. It's a genuine privilege, whether it's a cup of tea or a glass of wine. David is razor-sharp wit and an absolute delight to be with.
Mike, I've got to ask, what do you think he'll make of all of this? Because this is... He'd much rather be at home avoiding celebrity, wouldn't he?
I mean, this is not his... I suspect this is not would be his favourite way of spending his birthday, but... I have spoken to him. He said, this is him speaking, he is excited about coming here, but I suspect he'd probably prefer to be at home sitting with his feet up, waiting for that telegram to arrive.
Of course, a telegram from a king who he first met, I think, when the king was 9 years old. It's unbelievable when you think about how much he's done in his life.
Well, there cannot be anybody who's been eyewitness to what's happened to planet Earth for 100 years. He is unique in that respect, and he has been there on the front line showing us the wonders of nature, but also how those wonders have changed. And that, I think, is unparalleled.
Mike, Tanya, thank you very much indeed. Well, you can see it all tonight on BBC One. And I was looking, there's a YouGov poll done of the most popular person in the world. And every year, way ahead of anybody else, there's always one name.
And Tori, can you do me a...
Sir David Attenborough. He was never going to have a quiet birthday, was he?
Yeah, I was listening carefully, David. I think I heard dogs barking rather appropriately in the background. I think there's sniffer dogs, aren't they, doing the seats behind you?
We have lots, you can imagine we have lots of sniffer dogs, and they're all very excited. But yeah, they're the only animals allowed in at the moment, but we'll wait to see you later on tonight.
Oh, very good. Thanks, David. See you later.
We'll be back with the headlines at 8 o'clock. Find out what's happening wherever you are.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. A number of results have been coming in from the local elections across London, where all 32 boroughs are up for a count. There have been 2 significant council losses for Labour so far, Wandsworth and Westminster. The Conservatives won Westminster Council from Labour. They now have 32 councillors over Labour's 22. The new leader of Westminster Council has told BBC London this morning the planned pedestrianisation of Oxford Street was a key issue for voters. Well, 6 million Londoners were eligible to vote, with more than 1,800 councillors being elected, as well as directly elected mayors in Croydon, Hackney, Lewisham, Newham and Tower Hamlets. Other results in the capital have seen Labour hold Hammersmith and Fulham. Labour also held Merton, gaining 1 seat. The Liberal Democrats had hoped to win there. And Labour also keeps control of Ealing Council. Elsewhere, for the Liberal Democrats, in Richmond, they held Richmond Council and won every seat on it. And in Sutton, the Lib Dems held the council, gaining a further 22 seats, and where the Conservatives lost 20 seats. OK, on to the weather then. Today we'll see areas of cloud bringing scattered showers in the afternoon. They'll turn heavier, a top temperature 19 degrees. That's it. We're back in just over half an hour. See you then. Bye-bye.
Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Nagamon Chetty and Charlie State.
Our headlines today. Labour loses hundreds of council seats as the first results come through in the local elections in England.
It's been a night of substantial success for Reform, winning more than 300 seats and gaining its first council of the election.
People are turning out, and they've turned out to repaint the red wall the turquoise wall.
Already, Labour's lost control of several councils, including Redditch, Tamworth, Hartlepool, Exeter and Tameside.
Yes, on the doorstep, it has been tough, there has been frustration, and we will have to pick up pace and really hear the public.
A bad night for Labour, living down to low expectations. But what does it mean for Sir Keir Starmer's future?
There have been gains for the Lib Dems and the Greens. Throughout this morning we'll be speaking to the main parties in England and assessing their fortunes.
Counting in the Scottish and Welsh parliamentary elections begins in the next few hours. We'll be there with the latest.
Also on the programme, a third British national has suspected hantavirus in connection with an outbreak on board the cruise ship MV Hondius.
And here it is, the harvest mouse. Welcome to your new home. There you go.
And we'll celebrate Sir David Attenborough on his 100th birthday.
And in the weather, many of us are going to see a dry day ahead. There'll be some spells of sunshine breaking through the cloud, particularly in the far south and the far north. A few showers elsewhere. I'll bring you a full forecast coming up shortly.
Good morning, it's Friday the 8th of May. Our main story today, Labour has suffered significant losses overnight as the first results from England's local election are announced.
More than 5,000 seats across 136 English councils are being fought for, as well as 6 mayoral contests. So far, it looks to have been a difficult night for Keir Starmer, with Reform UK benefiting at Labour's expense.
So let's show you some of those results in detail. The latest show Reform UK has seen the biggest gain of 352 seats. Labour has had a huge loss of 249. As you can see on the graphic there, Liberal Democrats gaining 36. It has also been a difficult morning for the Conservatives, losing 138 seats. The Green Party has gained 25 seats and independent councillors have lost 16.
So that's taking a look at individual seats. What does it mean for councils? Well, Labour has lost 8, down by 8. Reform's gained control of its first council of this election, and the Liberal Democrats have gained 1. Counts in Scotland and Wales's parliamentary elections will begin in an hour. Here's more from our political correspondent, Damien Grammaticus, who has the story of the night so far.
And I do hereby declare that Shaw Graham Ball is duly elected.
Reform seizing control of a council, here Newcastle under Lyme in Staffordshire, taking 10 Conservative seats and 17 Labour ones in the process. The party's deputy leader Richard Tice enjoying the moment. Tamworth, also in Staffordshire, was an early sign of things to come. Labour and the Conservatives lost every seat they were defending to Reform. Richard Tice was here too.
The turnout in many areas is up, and that's great because it's sometimes not easy in local elections, but people are turning out and they've turned out to repaint the red wall the turquoise wall.
In Hull, more Reform gains saw the Lib Dems lose overall control and Labour 8 of the 9 seats they were defending. Here they said the message from the doorstep was clear.
So many people mentioned that they would not vote for Keir Starmer or for anybody that represented Keir Starmer. And obviously, as a local Labour councillor, that's what they saw me as. I'm his representative in our area.
In Redditch in Worcestershire, another 6 Labour seats lost to Reform and control of another council gone. The same story was repeated in Hartlepool to the dismay of the local Labour MP.
I think we need change at the top of the Labour Party. I think the best thing the Prime Minister could do is address the nation tomorrow and set a timetable for an orderly transition, and also make sure that in that transition the widest talent pool possible can participate.
The Conservatives, too, have been losing seats to Reform, and these elections look set to confirm that the dominance of the traditional major parties is weakening. Though the Conservatives have wrested back control of Westminster in London. They'd run this council for more than half a century, then lost it to Labour 4 years ago. For others, there's been something to celebrate. The Lib Dems gained control here in Stockport, and they did the same in Portsmouth too.
Lisa Smart, Lib Dem MP for Hazel Grove. You are dancing in front of me.
Dancing. Lib Dems have won control of Stockport Council, and this is such a victory for the people of Stockport. I couldn't be prouder of the team. We have got an amazing team who have been delivering what the people of Stockport have been asking for.
The Greens, meanwhile, have picked up several wins, like here in Exeter, where they took 3 seats. Modest gains, but it meant they helped end Labour's control of this council as well. There's no doubt, though, whose night this has been, Reform's. But there are thousands more council seats in England to be decided, along with all the votes in Scotland and Wales too. Dame Grammaticus, BBC News.
So let's go straight to our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman, on Downing Street for us this morning. Henry, you're good at cutting through the graphics and the celebrations and telling us what's what. What's what?
Well, it's been a very bad night for the Labour Party, Charlie. Let's just emphasise again, this is a partial picture, only from English councils. Still about 2/3 of English councils to declare, as well as the Scottish and Welsh parliaments. But the partial picture that we have makes very bleak viewing for the Labour Party. Less than 2 years after Sir Keir Starmer was installed here on a vast landslide, the Labour Party is losing votes almost everywhere. Of the council seats which were counting overnight, they lost more than half. The only reason we're not talking about the Labour Party losing control of more councils is because in some councils, only half or a third of councillors were up for grabs, which means that it was mathematically impossible for them to lose control. But this is a very bad night for the Labour Party, and that is the universal response, of Labour MPs and Labour figures I've spoken to so far this morning.
Yeah, Henry, we were just showing, as you were chatting there, a picture of the Prime Minister casting his vote yesterday. Are we expecting to see him, hear from him this morning?
Yeah, actually very shortly. He was here in Downing Street, but he's left, and I'm expecting him to pop up before long in one of the places where the Labour Party has done relatively well, which is to say sort of slightly less badly than in other parts of the country. The argument he will make is partly about the public, but actually partly about Labour MPs, because he will be saying, look, I've got a 5-year mandate, stick with me. But also, he will try to show that he's not in denial, that he gets it, that he gets that this is a real rebuke from the electorate. And I'm told that he will argue that he can show that the country under his leadership can change faster than it has done in his first almost 2 years as Prime Minister. The question, I think, in terms of whether there'll be more instability here in Westminster over the next few days, is whether Labour MPs believe Keir Starmer that he can be the man to deliver that.
And Henry, people will be able to see, while you're talking, the ticker at the bottom on the right-hand side of the screen there. Just talk us through what we've seen so far and what it means for some of the other parties, because there's significant change going on, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, I actually think one of the really fascinating dynamics here, Charlie, is not just that this is a bad night for the Labour Party, it's really kind of a bad night for the two-party double act, the Labour and Conservative parties, which have governed Britain in various forms for a century. The main beneficiary of that Reform UK, who are winning at the expense of Labour and at the expense of the Conservatives. For the Liberal Democrats, a night of consolidation. They've still got some targets to come. The Green Party has done pretty well. They've certainly gained votes off Labour, though not that many councillors yet, but some of their big targets, especially in inner London, to come later today. So plenty of results still to come, and let's just emphasise again, the picture might change.
Henry, thank you.
There's been a number of terrible results for Labour so far, it's fair to say. One came in Tameside in Greater Manchester. When it says grey here, it means that there's no overall control of this council. Now, this is an area of historic strength for the party. It's where the former deputy leader, Angela Rayner's constituency is. And Labour had formerly held a majority at this council since 1979. No longer the case. So we can take a look at the seat change. Labour down 16. Reform is hoovering up that support, up 18, the Conservatives losing 2. Let's tell you the story about Newcastle under Lyme. This is where Reform has taken control of its first council. So what can we see? We can see there's a change, a scale of the party's gains, 27 from having no seats. And that is at the expense of both Labour and the Conservatives. Labour losing 17, the Conservatives losing 10. Those going straight to Reform UK. And then in the last few minutes, Reform has taken control of Havering Council in East London. So making it the second council that the party has gained so far. So 2 councils now for Reform UK alongside Newcastle under Lyme. We're still updating this graphic. We're catching up with exactly what's going on, but we have had confirmation that Reform UK has now won Havering.
So we can go to Havering now. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley is there for us this morning. Morning to you, Nick. It's worth explaining, isn't it, that the spectacular gains that Reform have had in terms of seats does not everywhere translate to running the council, but that is what's happened in Havering.
It is indeed, Charlie, here in East London. It's a pretty big win for Reform. They'll be pretty pleased to be saying so far this morning that they've picked up all those councils. I mean, we've said it numerous times in the programme already. It is early days, with still a lot of counting to do, but it seems abundantly clear that the big winners of these local elections in England are going to be Reform. And when Nigel Farage comes here in a few minutes' time, I'd expect him to be saying pretty clearly that he now thinks that the two-party system, the old Labour Conservative party system that Henry was talking about a few minutes ago, that is done. That Reform are now a major player in British politics. And crucially, this is the thing I'd really watch for today, is can Reform say they are a national party, that they have support in loads of parts of England, but also potentially being the second biggest party or even the biggest party in Wales, and potentially being the second biggest party in Scotland as well. Now, where I am, there's a big media scrum. There's a lot of councillors, newly elected councillors who've arrived here already. I'm expecting Nigel Farage to turn up at some point before 9 o'clock, and we'll bring you that as soon as he's here.
Thank you very much. We'll, as Nick was saying, we're hoping to hear from Nigel Farage a little later on. For the moment, thank you very much, Nick.
We can now talk to the Shadow Housing Secretary and Conservative MP for Braintree, Sir James Cleverly. Sir James Cleverly, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on BBC Breakfast. How is the morning going for you and the Conservatives?
Well, it's a mixed picture. We knew this was going to be a tough night for us, and clearly it's disappointing when we lose hard-working councillors. It's disappointing for them as individuals and for us as a party. But we've also seen areas where we have held on to councils that we were predicted to lose, and indeed gained control of councils. And so we need to understand that the job of repairing our relationship with the British people is still ongoing. Kemi's got a huge amount of support in the country, and her message of kind of enterprise, of making sure that we are, focused on repairing the economy, strengthening our borders, that's getting cut through, but it's not an instant fix. We recognise that, and we recognise there's still a lot of work to do.
You'll forgive me, I'm looking at our page, our BBC News page, just to see the gains and losses of various parties, and I'm just trying, I'm sometimes having to wait for it to update. How many councils have you gained?
Well, we've gained control of Westminster Council, we've gained control of Wandsworth Council, we've made gains in Peterborough, we've held Fareham Council,
So
we've held Harlow, we've held...
You've gained
Sorry?
2? You've gained 2?
That's my understanding. Now, again, I don't have the most up-to-date figures. I've been jumping from studio
that's
to
fine.
studio.
It's a work in progress.
Sure.
But say you've got 2, okay, so we can say that for now. Obviously, there are more results coming through. How many other councils do you expect to gain?
Well, I don't know, and I think this is an important point. This was always going to be a difficult election to predict. We've got a number of political parties, including parties that are making outlandish promises to gain votes. And those promises, those claims are superficially attractive to voters. But what we have seen is, from the elections last year, Reform, for example, who have done well overnight, there's no point pretending otherwise. But last year they gained control of councils. In the intervening 12 months, they've lost 70 councillors to ejections, defections, by-elections. They put in Worcestershire, for example, they put up council tax by 9%, having claimed they would cut council tax.
James Cleverly, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. You're talking about Reform's record once it has these councils.
And that's really important. That's really important.
Absolutely. It's a point that you've made, and I understand it. However, when you say they make outlandish promises and the performance so far isn't good, I think is what you're saying, it's not cutting through to voters because they're gaining. They've gained 352 councillors.
It is in the areas where they have been elected. Now, there are voters across the country who who find it appealing, those promises, whether it be from the Greens, whether it be from Reform. They find it appealing. But the people who actually experience Reform in office are far less convinced. Now, what we need to do as a Conservative Party is continue working to make sure that people know that it's us that will get jobs for young people, particularly repair the housing market, get us out the ECHR so we can secure our borders, take proper control of our laws, get power back in the hands of elected people rather than in quangos.
And again, I wonder if...
And that's what we've got to put across. But it's not an instant fix, and we recognise that.
Okay, I wonder if that is getting through because, Labour has experienced the biggest loss so far as we enter, the daytime of Friday, losing, 249. It's now lost more councillors than it has. And once upon a time, voters who were leaving Labour would be going to the Conservatives. They're not. So why are you... do you accept you are not the alternative to Labour anymore?
The Conservative Party is the only party actually holding Labour properly to account.
Because officially you're in opposition, of course. You've got the opportunity to do that. But other people are listening to Reform, or Lib Dems, or Greens.
We are the only party holding the government to account because we are the party holding government to account. So let's take, for example, this whole appalling situation with the appointment of Peter Mandelson. The other political parties, nowhere to be seen on this. Reform, nowhere to be seen on this. It was Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives that really drove through that on preventing the government giving away the Chagos Islands and the billions of pounds that went with it. That was the Conservative Party under Kemi. The protection of our veterans against vexatious lawsuits. That was Kemi leading the Conservative Party. Reform, nowhere to be seen.
Farage,
we are the ones actually doing the work on these things. Now, short-term popularity. Now, Nigel Farage is a brilliant political communicator, but that party has consistently made promises.
Could he be Prime Minister?
They are failing to deliver.
Could he be Prime Minister?
No, of course not. But because they are failing to deliver. And that is why the Labour Party is being punished. Keir Starmer made promises to get elected, and he's failed to deliver them. So we know how this works. If you make outlandish promises to get elected, you'll be punished by those voters when you fail to deliver. That's why we have a golden rule about not promising tax cuts that we can't fund through spending reductions, that we are focused on getting people onto the housing ladder, into work. That is the difference between a serious party of government, like the Conservative Party under Kemi, and populist showmanship parties like the Greens, like Reform, like Lib Dems and others.
Sir James Cleverly, Shadow Housing Secretary and Conservative MP for Braintree, thank you for your time with us here on BBC Breakfast.
19 minutes past 8. Let's talk about Wales. The new voting system means there could be a huge shift in the Senate as results of this election come through. Our correspondent Thomas Morgan in Cardiff for us this morning. Thomas, just remind people that are tuning in to us this morning, the count there hasn't started yet, so it's all a little bit delayed.
Yeah, it'll start around 9 a.m. really across Wales, and we're hearing that for the first time in, I guess, 100 years, that Labour will not, well, it doesn't look likely that they will be the largest party in Wales. Sources have been telling the BBC that they are struggling here, and that is significant because, as I say, for a century they've been the biggest party. When you talk of a Labour stronghold, you think of Wales because this is what it has been. So this will be hugely significant if that turns out to be the case. They are being squeezed from both sides, from Plaid Cymru and from Reform. So it'll be a huge difference in the makeup of who sits in this building behind me over the next few weeks if those results turn out to be as expected here today. Now, as I mentioned, those counts start at 9 a.m. this morning, but it's been completely different here. It's no more first past the post that it has been in the local elections. It'll be proportional voting here in Wales, which means seats are allocated by a percentage share of the vote for each party. There's 16 constituencies, 6 seats in each area, 96 seats up for grabs. And there's a big story to come if those polls will go the way it's predicted and if those Labour sources turn out to be correct.
Thomas, thank you very much. Let's turn our attention to Scotland. Voters went to the polls to elect a new national parliament there. And the big question is whether the Scottish National Party will win an historic 5th term in power.
Unlike England, there are no overnight counts in Scotland or Wales, which means constituents will have to wait a little longer to find out who's going to represent them. Our correspondent, Lorna Gordon, joins us now from the Glasgow count. Tell me, Lorna, it looks pretty quiet, not so, like, kind of spent as many of the council counts we've been to in England. What's happening?
Yeah, quiet so far, but this counting here gets underway from 9. Staff are starting to stream in. There'll be more than 1,000 people involved in the count here. You can see behind me the lilac ballot boxes. They are for Glasgow's 7 constituency MSPs. The peach ones are for the list vote. Glasgow will send 7 on the list to Holyrood as well. This is Scotland's largest constituency in terms of potential voters. Of course, other constituencies here in Scotland are geographically large. That means some of the ballot papers have been transported by helicopter, some by boat overnight to counting locations. I think there are a few things to look out for. Will the SNP win an overall majority? They look on course to win, but will they win a majority? The other thing, of course, is that fight for second place. It looks as if that will be between Labour and Reform. Anna Sawar, the leader of Labour here in Scotland, has tried to create some distance from Labour at Westminster and Sir Keir Starmer, but has that strategy worked? And how well will Reform punch through? They have never before won a seat at Holyrood in an election. The results here across Scotland will start coming in from around about lunchtime onwards.
Lorna, thanks so much. We will see you later, and I know it's a busy day for you as well. Thank you.
If you were seeking a little bit of calm in this all this furore over the elections, here's a place you could go. How about that, Sarah? Doesn't that look tranquil?
You are delivering with the calm and tranquility this morning, I think.
Oh, I think it's well needed, isn't it, this morning for some of us? And it doesn't get much more tranquil and serene start to the day than here. This is a picture on Lake Windermere in Ambleside. Barely a ripple on the water there. Lovely start to the day. Even a bit of blue sky overhead as well. It's not going to stay quite so serene all day. The clouds set to build here and there'll be some outbreaks of rain, but it really is a mixed picture depending on where you are today. So we've got generally a lot of cloud around, but there'll be some sunny spells lasting all day for some of us. A few showers in the forecast as well. And the weather's warming up from the south, so some warmer air drifting its way in over the next couple of days. In fact, the dividing line between the warmer air in the south and the cooler air in the north is this cold front. It's quite slow moving, it's quite stubborn. So we've got this line of cloud and showery rain across the far south of Scotland. That'll push a little bit further south across parts of northern England through the day, brightening up to the north of that with sunshine and a few showers, and also a few showers for parts of central Wales, the Midlands, central southern England as well. But they'll be fairly hit and miss around here. For parts of southern England and East Anglia, we could get up to about 19, possibly 20 degrees, typically looking at the low to mid-teens further north. So through the course of this evening and tonight, we've still got this line of cloud and showery rain, just pushing a bit further north out of Wales and the Midlands, but sitting across much of northern England, the far south of Scotland through the night. To the north of that, a cold start to Saturday. Could be a touch of frost for rural parts of Scotland. Further south, though, things are looking milder. Still some rain tomorrow, lingering on this cold front for parts of northern England and southern Scotland. Sunny spells elsewhere, but a big range in temperature. So we're looking at top temperatures up to 20 or 21 degrees across parts of southern England. We're stuck only about 10 or 11, though, for parts of northern England and into Scotland too. Back to you both.
Sarah, thanks very much.
Thanks, Sarah. See you in about half an hour.
Time now is 8:25. It has been announced that a third British national has suspected hantavirus linked to the cruise ship at the centre of the outbreak. The patient is now on a remote South Atlantic island.
That takes the total number of suspected cases to 9. 5 of those confirmed. 3 of those people have died. The ship is due to reach Tenerife over the next few days. Our correspondent Guy Hedgecoe is there and sent this report.
This is Granadilla port in Tenerife. It's where the Hondias cruise ship is due to arrive. The Spanish government says that taking in the boat is a humanitarian and legal obligation, and that the Canary Islands are equipped to manage this situation. But many local residents are uneasy.
The workers are really worried because they haven't been given any information at all. They haven't been told about safety measures, whether they're going to have to wear face masks or protective equipment.
I think the most sensible thing would be for them to think about us and not allow that ship into the Canary Islands.
We have to be very careful. People in those protective suits should go in and help them. I still don't think it's a good idea, though, but people do need help, so that's it.
Dock workers, fearful for their safety, have called a protest for today, demanding the authorities provide clearer information about the boat's arrival and the security measures that will be used. They have even threatened to prevent the cruise ship from approaching. The local government has criticised ministers in Madrid for allowing the boat to travel here, as have opposition parties who have described the situation as chaotic. The government insists tight safety measures will be taken. The ship will not dock directly in Tenerife. Instead, it will anchor off the coast and its passengers will be ferried to the island and will have no contact with local people. Preparations are also being made to repatriate passengers once they're given the medical all-clear. Spain said that officials were in talks with the UK to send a repatriation flight for British nationals to Tenerife. Guy Hedgecoe, BBC News, Tenerife.
The United States and Iran have exchanged fire in the Strait of Hormuz. It's unclear who fired first.
Despite the attacks, President Trump has insisted the ceasefire between the two countries remains in place. Here's our North America correspondent, David Willis.
A fragile ceasefire is becoming more tenuous by the day. An exchange of fire involving 3 guided missile destroyers, part of the US naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, the subject of competing narratives, with both sides saying the other fired first. In a post on social media, President Trump claimed the US Navy had inflicted great damage on what he called the Iranian attackers, whose boats, he added, went to the bottom of the sea quickly and efficiently. Missiles and drones, he added, dropped ever so beautifully down to the ocean, very much like a butterfly dropping to its grave.
They should not have done that today. We thought they might. We didn't know, but we were prepared. They shot missiles. Every missile was knocked down. Every drone was knocked down. And the people that shot it are no longer with us.
Iran says it fired in response to what it called US aggression in the Strait, and that the US response included attacks on Iranian military facilities in the region. Violations of the ceasefire, according to Iran. Not according to President Trump, however, who continues to insist a truce remains in place and that an agreement to end the conflict could be close at hand.
Could happen any day. could, and it might not happen, but it could happen any day. I believe they want the deal more than I do.
How many more such skirmishes this fragile ceasefire can endure in the meantime, however, remains to be seen. David Willis, BBC News, Los Angeles.
8:29, our programme, of course, very much dominated by those election results coming in this morning. We have been waiting for the comments from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, just last few minutes. The first comments we've had for him saying, these are quotes, "The results are tough. They are very tough. There's no sugarcoating it. We have lost brilliant Labour representatives across the country. There are people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party, and that hurts, and it should hurt. And I take responsibility." Those are the comments of Sir Keir Starmer this morning.
With us all morning has been John Tong, who has been looking after us and kind of examining what's been going on here. OK, we've had these comments from the Prime Minister. What do you make of them? I mean, they knew it was going to be tough. There were lots of rumours. I think even just last night there were reports that Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, was saying, do you think you should be thinking of a timeline? And then we have other voices saying, nope, fine, got my backing.
The Prime Minister couldn't say much else. He has to take responsibility. He's the leader of the Labour Party and he's leading them to probably their worst local election result this century. If you look at the scale of Labour losses, they're on course to be at least in excess of 1,000 seats. The previous worst this century is just over 800 seats. So it's a terrible result for Labour, whichever way you look at it. And just because, you know, it was an expectation doesn't mean to say that it's still, you know, a brutal reality. The problem for Labour is it's losing votes on the right to reform, and it's losing votes as it comes under probably the first challenge it's ever had on the left from the Greens. We've got five-party English politics now, and I think Labour's struggling to adjust to those new realities.
If we focus in on the success story of the night, really the major success, which is reform, and what they have achieved, can you explain to people who will be looking at that ticker in the corner of our screen now, going, now that's a lot of seats to win. Does that mean councils have changed hands, that Reform are in charge of more councils? It doesn't work quite like that, does it?
Yeah, Reform have only gained a couple of councils because in most councils only 1/3 of the seats were up for grabs. Labour has tended to lose the bulk of those seats, and so those seats have gone into no overall control because no party has won enough seats to take outright control if only 1/3 of those seats are actually up for grabs. So Reform's seat gain is much more spectacular than its number of councils gained, and that will be the pattern for the rest of the day.
We should say we are waiting to talk to Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, and as soon as we get that, we'll go to it. It was interesting talking to James Cleverly earlier from the Conservatives, who was... I was trying to get him to tell us why the Conservatives aren't gaining as much as Reform, or the Greens or the Lib Dems, because once upon a time, if you didn't vote Labour, if you were annoyed with Labour, you'd turn to the Conservatives. That's not the case. He came back and said there are outlandish promises being made by Reform UK, and when councils have been taken over by Reform UK, they haven't done well. But that still doesn't mean that people aren't turning to Reform UK now.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, the first point to make is the two-party pendulum has been well and truly smashed. Just because Labour's down doesn't mean the Conservatives are up. There are bright spots for the Conservatives. They've taken Westminster Council, but there aren't many other bright spots, and overall they're losing seats. The Conservatives are losing to Reform as well. It's just that Labour had far more seats to defend this time, and so it's particularly bad news for Labour, given the sheer volume of their defences. Yeah, the Conservatives have still got an awful lot to do. You're right. I mean, Reform took control of 10 councils last year, 9 of them from the Conservatives. They were shire councils, and some of those Reform councils have been mired in controversy. There have been a lot of rows about how Reform is governing, but it hasn't appeared to put people off supporting Reform. If you look at, in particular, the northern towns at this local election, they've gone overwhelmingly to Reform, and Labour will be mighty grateful only 1/3 of the seats were up for grabs in some of those councils.
We should reference the Liberal Democrats and the Green Party, or that both parties are making gains, aren't they?
Yeah, the Liberal Democrats have done reasonably well. I mean, their polling rating, opinion poll rating, was pretty similar to 2022, which is where the comparison is with. So they've made a couple of gains. They've taken Stockport, for example, out of no overall control. But it's largely a case of as you were, I think, for the Lib Dems. For the Greens, the results they'll be looking for are the London councils, which, remember, all the seats are up for grabs. And in inner London in particular, The Greens hope to take a lot of seats from Labour when those declarations arrive from around 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, so this is this curious time in a way, isn't it? There's a sort of pause in proceedings and we wait.
It's a limbo. Yeah, we're in limbo at the moment, waiting for the next set of declarations. But the London seats will be fascinating because they are all-out contests and there can be huge volatility with those.
John, for the moment, thank you very much.
Professor, thank you. Time to get the news, travel and weather, where you are back shortly.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. So results from the local elections in London have been coming in throughout this morning, with 2 significant council losses for Labour so far and a predicted big win for Reform in Havering. More than 6 million Londoners were eligible to vote, with all 32 London boroughs up for election, as well as directly elected mayors in Croydon, Hackney, Lewisham, Newham and Tower Hamlets. In the last couple of hours, Labour have lost control of Wandsworth Council and more recently Westminster Council, from where Barry Caffrey sent this report.
Well, Westminster was a top target for the Conservatives. The Tories had been in control here since the council was founded back in 1965, and they were in control until 2022 when Labour took control from the Conservative Party. But now, this morning, the Conservatives have that control back. The final tally is 32 seats for the Conservatives and 22 seats for the Labour Party. And the Conservative Party leader telling me this morning he's delighted by the result.
Barry Caffrey there. Well, elsewhere, there have been mixed fortunes for the Liberal Democrats, as well as that predicted win for Reform UK. Our political editor, Carl Mercer, is in the BBC London election hub this morning. Carl, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Victoria. And actually, some more good news for the Conservatives in the last 10 minutes or so. If you look at the screen behind me, they've held on to Bexley, which was a key target for Reform. But as you see there, the Tories now on 24 seats, and they only needed 23 for a majority. So they're in charge there. If we look at Wandsworth, though, Labour lost it, but Wandsworth did not go Tory. The Conservatives, the biggest group on that council, but not getting enough for an overall majority, although they are the biggest group on the council. If we move down to neighbouring Merton, Labour held on. This was a key Lib Dem target, but look at the difference there, 32 to 19. Quite a big difference in the end. Ed Davey had hoped to pick up Merton. Better news for the Lib Dems if we go even further down to the southwest. They held on to Richmond upon Thames, winning all 54 seats on that council, and they also held on, as expected, in Sutton as well, where they took nearly all of the seats there, as you can see on here. One result we are waiting on, you did allude to it a bit earlier, Havering out on the Essex borders. We are expecting that Reform will win that, and that will mean that will be Reform's first ever council in London.
Carl, thanks very much indeed, and we are expecting that result fairly shortly. Carl, thank you. Right, that takes us to the weather. Today we'll see areas of cloud bringing scattered showers. In the afternoon, they will turn pretty heavy. We could even see some lightning later on in the day, and we've got a maximum temperature today of around 19 degrees Celsius. OK, that is just about it for now. You can see more results, more reaction and analysis, of course, from the BBC local elections as it comes in by heading over to the BBC News website and the app. And we're back after 9 o'clock. Bye-bye.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching Breakfast with Naga Munchetty and Charlie State. Just to let you know what's going on this morning, obviously we're giving you all the election results, but let's cross over to Havering right now because we're expecting Reform UK leader Nigel Farage to arrive any moment there. We've got our cameras and our reporters on the scene. It'll be his first comments following the successes that Reform UK has seen throughout the voting this morning. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and as and when Nigel Farage is speaking, we will cross over there. It's worth saying as well that we've heard from Sir Keir Starmer, who says he's taken responsibility for Labour's tough local election results. Prime Minister has said this morning, days like this don't weaken my resolve to deliver the change that I promised. The reason he's saying those things is the results you can see behind me here. The latest results show Reform UK has seen the biggest gain of 360 seats, 363 is the ticker you can see on our graphics, which are updating all the time, of course, those results still coming in. Labour's had a huge loss of 251. I understand the figures are now. And it's also been a difficult morning for the Conservatives, losing 146. So the Liberal Democrats, we can see they're gaining 36. Green Party has gained 27 seats. The independent councillors have lost 16 seats. That is the big picture of English councils. So then, if we look at the individual seats, let's see what that means for councils. So far, Labour is down by 8 and Reform has gained control of 2. Counts for the parliamentary elections in Scotland and Wales will begin in around half an hour's time. Let's go straight back to Havering. Our cameras are there. Nigel Farage is on the scene. So we've just seen Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, arriving in the last few minutes. He's obviously on a little bit of a walkabout. You can see many of the cameras blocking our view currently, but I can assure you that Nigel Farage is behind that group of photographers. It has overall been a spectacular night for Reform UK. Many results still to come in. You can see the ticker on the right of your screen, the bottom right of the screen, which is updating all the time. And the figure you can see there is the gains in the number of seats. It's going up all the time, 363 for Reform currently. And what we've seen, the pattern that's emerging is Labour and Conservative losses. Labour down 251 on the night. Conservatives, you can see, down 146.
Let's bring you up to date with what's happened in Havering, where Reform has taken control of this London Borough Council for the first time. And what happened is it had to pass a threshold. And the threshold was 28 seats, which is what happened. Our reporter, Jonathan Josephs, has been at Havering covering the count and has said that basically if you look at the issues there, Havering Council has borrowed more than £230 million from central government in recent years. And Reform has a challenge. Here's Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, to give his verdict, and our correspondent Nick Eardley there as well.
Good morning, everybody. I am delighted to be here in the sunshine outside Havering Town Hall, which I can now say is under new management. And I'm and it's significant. It's our first win of a borough in London, and that in some ways goes against the trend, because the pattern that's emerging over the country is that Labour are being wiped out by Reform in many of their most traditional areas, and what you're going to see later on today is the Conservative Party being wiped out in their heartlands like Essex. So London goes a bit against the trend in that the Conservatives and Labour have held up in some of the other boroughs. But I think overall what's happened is a truly historic shift in British politics. We've been so used to thinking about politics in terms of left and right, and yet what Reform are able to do is to win in areas that have always been Conservative, but equally we're proving in a big way we can win in areas that Labour have dominated, frankly, since the end of World War I. At the moment, we're winning 1 in 3 of all the seats that are up, but I genuinely think the best is yet to come. I'm very excited about the North East results, the Yorkshire results, some more to come in the West Midlands. Essex, we're feeling supremely confident, and that's significant given that half the Cheddar Cabinet have seats in Essex. So it's a big, big day. It's a big, big day, not just for our party, but for a complete reshaping of British politics in every way. And it all goes to show that over the course of the last 2 years, since we made that breakthrough in the general election, we have professionalised the party. We've done it at a very, very rapid rate. I'm thrilled and delighted and happy to take any questions.
Nigel, you're live on Good Morning Britain. The counting process so far, there's a lot still to come.
Yes.
You clearly made a lot of gains, you're clearly doing very well. How well do you think you'll do by the end of the day?
The best is yet to come. the best is yet to come. I'm very excited about the prospects for us in Sunderland, in Barnsley, in Calderdale, in Wakefield, Cannock Chase, areas like that. And by the way, you know, we took Newcastle-under-Lyme from the Conservatives, but there are going to be some big Labour wins. And perhaps in historic terms, Wales is the biggest of all. You know, Labour have not lost an election in Wales since 1922. I couldn't tell you whether Plaid will be first or we're going to be first, but what I can tell you is it's going to be a tight race between the two. So Wales, historically significant.
Nigel, live on Good Morning Britain. A lot of sentiment there. What about the specifics, though? What do you actually need to do for communities, councils up and down the country?
Well, we've got a track record now. You know, where we have majority control of the 10 councils we won on May the 1st last year, 1 year in, you know, we can say hand on heart, we've already saved over £300 million, and we've kept our council tax rises lower than any of the other parties running comparable counties. And if you doubt me, the IFS actually yesterday backed that up. So we are delivering value for money. What we're going to do here is, whilst many of these are new to politics, we've also got some old lags. Sorry,
Thanks,
Keith.
Val, yeah.
Well, you were the
Yeah,
council
mate.
leader, you know. So we've also got some experience of how to run this place, and we're very excited about the prospects. By the way, no one's got a magic wand. We all know that finances of local councils all over the country are severely stretched, and we're not promising miracles, but we are promising good value for
Do you
money.
recognise this might be a protest vote, though, against Labour and Keir Starmer, and that's why people are coming to reform when it comes to the general election? The results might look very different.
Well, have a look at last year. You know, last year we far exceeded expectations in the counties that were fought. You know, it can't continue to be a fluke or a protest vote. I would honestly say you're witnessing an historic shift in British politics. This is now the most national of all parties. We're competitive in the north of Scotland. We were competitive in Cornwall in the county elections last year. We're competitive in every part of the country, and we're here to stay.
You talked about some difficult questions on funding for local councils. You've had some difficult questions about your own funding.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that any other time you like. Go on.
Nigel, we've heard claim before that the old two-party system is dead. What makes this time different, and how confident are you, based on these results, that you're heading for number 10?
Well, look, I think, you know, apart from London, as I say, London, there are some London boroughs in which Labour have held up well overnight. The Conservatives have won back Westminster, although failed to do so in Wandsworth. There is still some residual strength. You know, both the Labour and Conservative parties would view London as their stronghold. But if you go to Merseyside, you go to Greater Manchester, you know, just have a look overnight at what we've achieved already in results. You know, in Greater Manchester, Tameside being an example, we won all the seats that were up overnight. And one of the big ones I'm looking forward to on Merseyside is St Helens, later on today, where all 46 seats are up. Now, these are areas, you know, Boris Johnson did well in 2019 in the Red Wall, but what you're going to see today from us goes way further than that. And I think what you're seeing is voters who aren't just coming to us for a one-off, they're now becoming reformers in every way. So I am convinced that it's a fundamental change. I said yesterday that this set of elections was like our Beecher's Brook. You know, you've got to clear Beecher's Brook, you've got to land safely if you're going to go on and win the Grand National. And these are the most significant set of elections between now and the general election, and I think we're in a very good place. And our lead, if you look at our lead over the other parties, it's consistently about 9.5%.
You talked about voting reform to get Keir Starmer out this morning. He said he takes responsibility for the results, but he isn't going anywhere. Do you think that will change over the next few years?
I suspect when you see the full results in the Red Wall, there'll be a rebellion. Personally, I'd be very sad to see the Prime Minister go. I would be very sad indeed. He's the greatest asset we've got.
It looks like the Conservatives will win no seats in Havering. What has the result in London done to the Conservatives nationally? And could we be about to see Hexit, Havering leaving London as a result of this?
Well, look, you know, as far as Havering's
So
concerned,
Nigel
there are
Farage there, enjoying a victory in Havering, where Reform has taken control of a London Borough Council for the first time, passing that threshold of 28 seats for victory, talking about where he sees UK politics, claiming that this is a reshaping of British politics, and also that the best is yet to come, and also a touch of sarcasm there when it came to his reference to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
Well, in the last few minutes, the Prime Minister has been reacting to his party's losses. Let's have a listen.
Prime Minister, overnight Labour have lost over 250 councillors. On the trajectory you're going on, by the end of play, over 1,500 Labour councillors could have lost their seats. You just said that you take responsibility. Did you contemplate this morning that the responsibility is that it's time for you to go and to resign?
Let me be clear, these are really tough results. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And we have lost brilliant Labour representatives, people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party and our movement. And the voters have sent a message about the pace of change, how they want their lives improved. I was elected to meet those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
Yeah, they've sent a message that they want to change you.
Well, they've sent a message that the change that we promised isn't being delivered in a way they can feel, and also, frankly, they're fed up with years of the status quo. But we were elected to deal with those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from that and to plunge the country into chaos.
Did you contemplate that the problem might be you, that you might need to go to help Labour win these seats back? Did you even contemplate it? Do you acknowledge it as a conversation even?
Look, I think it's absolutely clear that the electorate are fed up with the fact that their lives aren't changing quickly enough. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. I think that we were right to emphasise to the country the difficult inheritance we've had, the challenges we face, but we haven't done enough to convince people that things can improve, their lives can get better, the hope. And I'm not going to walk away from that challenge. We made a number of calls which were the right calls in terms of stabilising the economy, investing in our public services and not getting dragged into the Iran war. But we also made unnecessary mistakes. And my job now is to set out the steps that we will take to bring about the change that people want and deserve.
To be clear, you are not going to resign.
No, I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. We were elected to deal with these challenges, and that's what we will do.
Has Ed Miliband asked you to set out a timetable for your departure?
Well, I think Ed Miliband has dealt with this and made absolutely clear that he supports me.
What do you say to those in your party that are really upset with you, they don't think you're getting it, and they're calling for your resignation? What do you say to would-be challengers and the party? What's your message?
Well, I think it's very important that we don't sugarcoat these results, so I'm not going to do that. They are tough results, I accept that. They reflect voters who don't feel that their lives have changed enough or quickly enough, and that's been going on for a long time. We were elected to deal with that, and I'm not going to walk away from that responsibility and plunge the country into chaos.
Final question. One of your own top team messaged me this morning and said that you are the reason that Labour risks handing the country to reform, that you are the problem. What do you say to that? That if you stay on, you will hand the country to reform?
What I'd say to that is we won a landslide victory in July 2024. I led our party to that victory. That is a 5-year mandate to change the country. Yes, there are difficult conditions. The inheritance was terrible. The international context is very, very difficult. But we need to inject that hope and convince people that things can and will get better. And that's why in coming days I'll set out the further steps that we will take.
How are you feeling? Are you feeling upset today?
I am feeling very much for the brilliant candidates, the brilliant councillors, the brilliant representatives that we have lost, because I know for them they have put so much into their communities, so much of their life into public service. And so I'm thinking about them and thinking about what we need to do to rebuild and to take our country forward.
Are you going to stand as Prime Minister at the next general election?
Yes. It was a 5-year term I was elected to do. I intend to see that through. Thank you.
So those are the words of Sir Keir Starmer. We've got those just in the last few minutes. Let's go to our political editor, Chris Mason, joining us from our London newsroom. Morning, Chris. First time we've had a chance to chat to you, and I was just doing one of those little checks, listening in to Sir Keir Starmer very carefully. My tally is that 5 times in those 4.5 to 5 minutes, he said the words, "I'm not going to walk away."
Yeah, morning to you, Charlie. I think on Breakfast in the last 10 minutes, we've got the essence of the story so far, really. And remember, we are still very, very early on in this sweep of election results to come during today and even into tomorrow. So hearing the jubilation, and indeed I notice a bit of expectation management from Nigel Farage of Reform there in Havering in East London, talking about not being able to offer miracles when Reform are running councils. And then, as you say, repeatedly from the Prime Minister, a dogged determination. Firstly, a desire to get out and about in front of the cameras this morning, midway through, not even midway through this cycle of results, and to make it abundantly clear, principally, frankly, to people on his own side, that he is determined that he is not going anywhere. And I think we'll probably hear from him again at the beginning of next week. And then there's the King's Speech, the state opening of Parliament, where our government sets out its plans for the year or so ahead. That's been very intentionally scheduled for the middle of next week to try and give Keir Starmer a sense of direction and momentum and, if you like, inevitability in office. But he's having to say all of this stuff because he knows the pressure he's under. He knows how unpopular the government is. He knows how unpopular he is. That is a defensive Prime Minister on the back foot, trying to make the best of a pretty grim set of results so far, with every expectation that from Labour's perspective, it's going to be a grim day ahead.
Morning, Chris. It's Naga. We've spoken to all the parties, or speaking to all the parties throughout the morning. And the Green Party, happy. Liberal Democrats, happy. The Conservatives, not the alternative to those voters dissatisfied with Labour. And I'm not quite sure what message they're trying to tell us as is the reason why.
Yeah, it's a difficult old time for the Conservatives. It's quite striking, isn't it, that the Conservatives, so often a dominating party in our national political conversation, are something of a sidebar, really, this morning. They can point to the odd sign of progress, but they acknowledge they're going backwards. They are going to go backwards. Here is a party that was pummeled at the last general election, picks Kemi Badenoch as their new leader. They go backwards in the opinion polls. They lose MPs from an already low base to Reform. And yet, actually, they're pretty chipper. Kemi Badenoch is safe in her position. They had managed expectations about the reality of what was likely to happen to them at this point, which is to go backwards. But opposition parties sort of shouldn't be going backwards at this stage in the cycle, and yet what's happening is that people who are disillusioned with Labour are heading perhaps to the Greens or to Reform or in various different directions, and Conservatives in a tricky place. Now, as far as these elections are concerned, Naga, they can, if you like, take comfort in the fact that their difficulty is overshadowed by the scale of the difficulties that Labour face. But in the medium to longer term, that's no comfort at all. They have to fight for relevance. It is as significant as that for the Conservatives. With Nigel Farage making an argument, you heard it just there, he'll carry on making it during the day as no doubt he hops around Great Britain smiling, that they are the principal voice of opposition to the Labour government rather than His Majesty's official opposition, the Conservatives. So massive strategic questions for the Conservatives about their future and their relevance.
And also about the messaging that all the parties now put across regarding Reform UK and how they target each other, the negativity from other parties.
Completely that. And then just the fracturing. And this is just the English picture at the moment before we look at the fracturing through the prism of Scotland and Wales and Plaid Cymru and the Scottish National Party. So you have Reform dominant. So far, at least, they are clearly head and shoulders above the other parties in terms of popularity. And yet, broadly speaking, commanding around about a third of the vote. That's a smaller share of the vote than Labour managed at the last general election when they faced questions about their legitimacy, their credibility, given it was a small share of the vote for the kind of majority they got. And then where all of the other parties, broadly speaking, are scrabbling around in the teens as far as their percentage share of the vote is concerned. So there's that fragmenting, which means that even winners are often then challenged by that question of credibility and authority and legitimacy and mandate, which is another sense, I think, of where we are with our noisy, multi-party, angry politics. And as I say, that's before we get the results from Scotland and Wales that could point to questions being raised by many in those nations around the extent to which they're comfortable with the UK as itself. If the SNP and Plaid Cymru, both as is expected, do well today.
Keep yourself charged with snacks and hot drinks, Chris, today. You'll
Good
need
idea.
it. It's our political editor, Chris Mason.
We've got the headlines coming up in just a moment. Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Naga Munchetty and Charlie State.
Our headlines today. Labour loses hundreds of council seats as the first results come through in the local elections in England.
It's been a night of substantial success for Reform, winning more than 300 seats and gaining its first council of the election.
It's a big, big day, not just for our party, but for a complete reshaping of British politics in every way.
Labour's already lost control of several councils, including Redditch, Tamworth, Hartlepool, Exeter and Tameside.
I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. We were elected to deal with these challenges, and that's what we will do.
A bad night for Labour, living down to already very low expectations. The question now is what Labour MPs make of Keir Starmer's response.
There have been gains for the Lib Dems and the Greens. Throughout the morning, we're speaking to all the main parties in England assessing their fortunes.
Counting in the Scottish and Welsh parliamentary elections begins. We'll be there with the latest.
Also on the programme, a third British national has suspected hantavirus in connection with an outbreak on board the cruise ship MV Hondius.
And here it is. To Harvey's Mouse. Welcome to your new home. There you go.
And we'll celebrate Sir David Attenborough on his 100th birthday.
And there's a real mix of weather types today. Bit of blue sky and sunshine for some of us, cloudier elsewhere with a few showers, but things will turn colder in the north and warmer in the south as we look towards the weekend.
Good morning, it's Friday the 8th of May. Our main story, Sir Keir Starmer has taken responsibility for Labour's tough local election results.
The Prime Minister said this morning that days like this don't weaken my resolve to deliver the change that I promised.
So the latest results show Reform UK has seen the biggest gain of 360 seats. You can see on the graphic there, Labour's had a huge loss. Now 251. It's also been a difficult morning for the Conservatives, losing 145. The Liberal Democrats gained 36. The Green Party gaining 27 seats. And as you can see, their independent councillors have lost 16 seats.
So those are the seats. Let's take a look at what this means for councils. So far, Labour down by 8. Reform has gained control of 2. Also in the last few minutes, counts for the parliamentary elections in Scotland and Wales have begun. Our political correspondent Damien Grammaticus can bring us the story of the night so far.
And I do hereby declare that Shaw Graham Paul is duly elected.
Reform seizing control of a council. Here, Newcastle under Lyme in Staffordshire, taking 10 Conservative seats and 17 Labour ones in the process. The party's deputy leader, Richard Tice, enjoying the moment. Tamworth, also in Staffordshire, was an early sign of things to come. Labour and the Conservatives lost every seat they were defending to Reform. Richard Tice was here too.
The turnout in many areas is up, and that's great because it's sometimes not easy in local elections, but people are turning out, and they've turned out to repaint the red wall the turquoise wall.
In Hull, more Reform gains saw the Lib Dems lose overall control and Labour 8 of the 9 seats they were defending. Here they said the message from the doorstep was clear.
So many people mentioned that they would not vote for Keir Starmer or for anybody that represented Keir Starmer. And obviously, as a local Labour councillor, that's what they saw me as. I'm his representative in our area.
In Redditch in Worcestershire, another 6 Labour seats lost to Reform and control of another council gone. The same story was repeated in Hartlepool, to the dismay of the local Labour MP.
I think we need change at the top of the Labour Party. I think the best thing the Prime Minister could do is address the nation tomorrow and set a timetable for an orderly transition, and also make sure that in that transition the widest talent pool possible can participate.
The Conservatives too have been losing seats to Reform, and these elections look set to confirm that the dominance of the traditional major parties is weakening. Though the Conservatives have wrested back control of Westminster in London. They'd run this council for more than half a century, then lost it to Labour 4 years ago. For others, there's been something to celebrate. The Lib Dems gained control here in Stockport, and they did the same in Portsmouth too.
Lisa Smart, Lib Dem MP for Hazel Grove. You are dancing in front of me.
Dancing. Lib Dems have won control of Stockport Council, and this is such a victory for the people of Stockport. I couldn't be prouder of the team. We have got an amazing team who have been delivering what the people of Stockport have been asking for.
The Greens, meanwhile, have picked up several wins, like here in Exeter, where they took 3 seats. Modest gains, but it meant they helped end Labour's control of this council as well. There's no doubt, though, whose night this has been, Reform's. But there are thousands more council seats in England to be decided, along with all the votes in Scotland and Wales too. Damon Grammaticus, BBC News.
Let's talk to our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman, who's at Downing Street for us. Henry, good morning to you. OK, what are we going to assess? We've been hearing a lot from all the parties. What is it time to assess?
Well, look, let's just emphasise first off, Naga, again, that the results we've had so far are partial. There are about a third of the council seats that were up for election in England, and nothing from Scotland and Wales yet. But what is clear is that the big winner overnight is Nigel Farage and Reform UK. One of the 2 councils that he's gained control of is Havering in East London, and he's been speaking there in the last half an hour or so.
At the moment, we're winning 1 in 3 of all the seats that are up, but I genuinely think the best is yet to come. I'm very excited about the North East results, the Yorkshire results, some more to come in the West Midlands. Essex, we're feeling supremely confident, and that's significant given that half the Cheddar Cabinet have seats in Essex.
Now, that's a council victory which came at the expense of the Conservative Party, but a lot of the councillors that Reform UK won overnight came at the expense of Labour. That doesn't necessarily mean that votes flowed directly from Labour to Reform UK, but it does underscore that so far it's been a very bad set of results for the Labour Party. Their expectations were low, but those low expectations appear to have been fulfilled. Striking that the Prime Minister has already been out speaking, trying to get ahead of some of the arguments which will rage in the Labour Party over the course of the weekend. Let's hear what he had to say.
Let me be clear, these are really tough results. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And we have lost brilliant Labour representatives, people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party and our movement. And the voters have sent a message about the pace of change, how they want their lives improved. May was elected to meet those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
So that's the Prime Minister being clear. He is not resigning. If there is to be a challenge to his authority or a formal challenge to his leadership from within the Labour Party, he will stay and fight. His clear analysis there is that these bad results for the Labour Party are a verdict on the slow pace of change that this government is delivering. The concern that at least some Labour MPs I've spoken to as they digest these results this morning have is that it's not about the pace of change, it's about the nature of the change proposed by Keir Starmer's government. That is the debate we will see play out over today and through the weekend.
Indeed. OK, Henry, thanks very much for that analysis. Henry Zeffman, our chief political correspondent.
So you'll have seen throughout our coverage this morning the ticker on the bottom right-hand side of the screen there. That's showing the seats that have been gained so far. It's been changing all the time, of course. There's a lot of focus on Birmingham, the West Midlands. Of course, 101 seats are up for grabs there. Our reporter Elizabeth Glinker is there for us this morning. There is a lot of attention on Birmingham and your count.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlie, because this is a huge count. Birmingham City Council is the largest unitary in the UK, responsible for the services delivered to 1.2 million people. There are, as you said, 101 seats up for grabs, and we think it is going to be a very long day. They haven't actually started verifying the votes yet. You can see some of the boxes on the tables, but verification hasn't started. And the other reason we could be in for a very long day is that we have more than 600 candidates here in Birmingham. Not only do the 5 main national parties in England have candidates running in all of those 101 seats, but we also have many, many independents as well who could be a real factor, particularly in the city centre wards of this authority where traditionally Labour have been very strong. Now, Labour, as we've heard overnight, beginning to see a picture of difficulty for them. Here in Birmingham, they've been running the council for 14 years, but their problems aren't just the national ones going on everywhere else, reflected in the national polling. This is a council that went bust in 2023. It's a council where we had a bin strike for more than 14 months. So a real uphill battle for Labour here. And the likeliest picture, we think, is no overall control. And what that could mean by the end of the day is even when the results are in, we don't know who is really in charge here in the second city.
Elizabeth, thank you very much.
Voters in Scotland are waiting to find out the results of the parliamentary election. The big question is whether the Scottish National Party will win an historic 5th term in power.
So with the count set to begin later this morning, our political correspondent David Wallace-Lockhart has been looking at what could happen.
This was how the constituencies in Scotland looked in 2021. There's a lot of SNP yellow on that map, but despite that, they fell just shy of a majority at Holyrood, which requires 65 seats. That's difficult to achieve under Scotland's more proportional voting system. Here's the full results from 5 years ago. But the SNP reckon they can get there this time around. So let's look at some key battle constituencies. And remember, there have been boundary changes in Scotland. We're starting in the capital, Edinburgh Central. From 4th place last time, the Scottish Greens fancied their chances, with former party co-leader Lorna Slater taking on SNP Cabinet Minister, the incumbent Angus Robertson. Boundary changes here have shifted several strong Labour areas into the seats, so local Labour councillor James Dalgleish makes this an intriguing contest. But this could mark the Scottish Greens' first ever constituency win. To the west is Rutherglen and Cambuslang. This is a Labour must-win if the party is to have any sort of revival. SNP incumbent Claire Hawkey and Labour's Monica Lennon are the two to watch here. Let's head to Scotland's largest constituency, to Caithness, Sutherland and Ross. It's almost as big as Northern Ireland. It's currently held by the SNP's Marie Todd, but this is the sort of seat where the Lib Dems, who can be strong in the Highlands, think they're in with a shot with their candidate, David Green. What about Reform UK? Well, let me take you to fishing country, to Bamshire and Bucking Coast. This could be the scene of a three-way fight. Once represented by Alex Salmond, the seat's been SNP since 1999. But Karen Adams' majority is now fewer than 800 votes. It's the Tories' number 2 target seat, but their candidate, James Adams, will have to see off Reform UK, who think they have a shot here with their candidate, Conrad Ritchie. This is probably the sort of seat that the SNP must win if they're to secure an outright majority. So there's just a handful of seats to keep an eye out for in Scotland.
David Lockhart there, Wallace Lockhart there. Now, Wales's new voting system means there could be huge shifts in the Senedd as a result of this election. Our correspondent, Tomas Morgan, is in Cardiff for us this morning. Tomas, good morning to you. Sun was shining earlier. Looks a little bit greyer there now. What about the changes? What's expected?
Well, we've been hearing from Welsh Labour sources that they are not feeling good about the results that could come out later today. Counting has just begun across Wales, and as I mentioned there, the polls were already predicting that Labour was on to a difficult day today. They were predicting that for the first time in a century, they wouldn't be the largest party in Wales, and it looks like it's going to be a straight fight between Plaid Cymru and Reform. But this is a huge political shift in Wales, if that does turn out to be the case, because as I mentioned, for 100 years Labour have been the dominant force. Since devolution, they've always been in government, they've always had a First Minister, but for the first time ever we could be seeing a different colour leading here in Wales. And who are they blaming? Well, Labour members in Wales, they're blaming London. They're saying that this fight in Wales has been more about Downing Street and immigration and not enough focus about Wales. But Welsh Labour MPs, they are still backing Sir Keir Starmer at the moment. So if these results do go as badly as predicted for Labour, there will certainly be a split within the party that has been there, but it's certainly going to be widening now. And the question will be, I guess, the other parties, who can take control here in Wales and mark a historical change in Welsh political history.
Tomos, thanks so much. Tomos Morgan there for us, our correspondent there in Wales. And we should say that this is early doors when it comes to England results. Of course, news coverage for these results in local elections in England and, of course, the parliamentary elections in Scotland and Wales will continue throughout the day.
Time now is 9:15. Sir David Attenborough is celebrating his 100th birthday today, and the BBC is marking the milestone with a special concert at London's Royal Albert Hall.
Our arts and media correspondent, David Silito, is there for us. David, good morning. What a magnificent venue, and what excitement must be brewing.
Definitely. I've spoken to a lot of his friends and colleagues over the last week or so, and they all said the same thing. If he had his choice, he'd be at home today, maybe with a glass of wine, a bar of fruit and nuts. However, friends, fans, colleagues weren't going to allow him to get away with that. Look at it. There are dozens and dozens of people preparing for what is quite some birthday party celebration tonight. And also, I've been having a look on IMDb today for the most popular, highest rated programmes of all time. Number 2 and number 3 is Planet Earth 2 and Planet Earth. Someone who's worked on both of them is with me now. Vanessa, you know Sir David quite well, don't you?
I do. I'm very honoured to have spent a lot of time with him in the field.
The question, what's he really like? We've seen him for 72 years on screen. Is he any different?
He is an amazing mix of quite a few things. He's incredible fun on location. I worked with him on, for example, shooting the Congo, filming chimpanzees in a really basic film camp. And he just sort of loves to muck in. There's no airs and graces.
I think we've got a photograph of him peeling potatoes.
Yes, yes. He just will say, what can I do to help? You know, and he doesn't ask for any special food. He eats what the crew eats. He sleeps where we sleep. He's just really easy to work with. And
he's not in a 5-star hotel in the Congo.
Oh, God, no. No.
Can you put your finger on why there isn't another Sir David Attenborough?
David is a combination of being the most sublime storyteller, and that's something I've been so lucky to be taught literally on the road. And he can harness his passion and sheer joy that he has for animals and convey that to the widest possible audience. I've never met anyone like it. I watched him with the San, a group of people in the Kalahari who didn't speak a word of English, sat round him whilst he was describing blue whales. They'd never seen the ocean, they probably never would. And they were literally hanging on every word, laughing all the right moments, oohing, ahhing. Somehow his storytelling was even translating across those boundaries of culture and, you know, experience.
What do you think he's going to make of tonight?
Look, I hope that he feels how much we as friends and colleagues want to celebrate what he's done for us, the incredible industry that he's created, and all the joy that he's given millions of people around the world. I think he will recognise and enjoy that. But obviously, he'd probably rather be at home with a cup of tea with his feet up. But, you know...
You're not going to give him that choice?
No, absolutely not. He'll be very, very delighted and grateful that everyone's gone so much bother.
You can see, all that bother. I was going to show you one last thing. Anyone at home can do this. Tap into Google, and if you tap his name in, you get this birthday greeting. I don't think there are other people in the world who get anything like that. Absolutely remarkable. Sir David Attenborough, happy birthday. 100 years, amazing. Here from the Albert Hall.
David, thank you very much. It's going to be a spectacular night tonight. Thank you.
You can watch the special programme, Sir David Attenborough's 100 Years on Planet Earth on BBC One at 8:30 tonight and on the iPlayer.
Time now to get the news, travel and the weather where you are.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. So results from the local elections in London have been coming in throughout this morning with two significant council losses for Labour, Westminster and Wandsworth councils. There's also been a big win for Reform in Havering. Our political editor Carl Mercer reports.
For the first time, London will have a Reform UK council, Nigel Farage's party winning in Havering.
Good morning, everybody. I am delighted to be here in the sunshine outside Havering Town Hall, which I can now say is under new management.
But in nearby Bexley, one of their targets, they fell short to the Tories.
They have thrown the absolute kitchen sink at trying to take Bexley. It's one of their top targets in London, and it looks like that they thought they were going to walk it. They were expecting a whitewash like they got in Kent last year, and it definitely looks like that hasn't happened.
For the Conservatives, victory in Westminster, which they lost to Labour last time round. The pedestrianisation of Oxford Street, a key issue.
Access along Oxford Street is really difficult if you're elderly or if you've got a buggy, etc. There is no step-free access at Oxford Circus, and people are really worried about how they're just going to get around.
The Tories also became the largest party in Wandsworth, again a council Labour won in 2022.
I think people are coming back to the Conservative Party. I think they're responding to the National Party platform, which is optimistic, it's pragmatic, it's speaking to people's everyday concerns.
The Lib Dems held on to Richmond and Sutton but failed to overtake Labour in Merton, one of their key targets.
We're delivering in Merton for our residents. We've got lower council tax than any of the Lib Dem boroughs nearby, whilst investing in our local services. We've got brilliant parks. We've been investing in services like pop-up tips, new street trees, and residents really appreciate that. It's the local stuff that matters. It's our community, and we care about it.
Labour also held on to Ealing and Hammersmith and Fulham. With just 10 councils declaring overnight, London's 22 other boroughs will start counting later this morning. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
OK, with that, let's get a check on the weather with Gillian Brown.
Hello, good morning to you. Still quite a bit of cloud around this morning, some bright spells, and this is how we are set up for today. Low pressure to the north, a southerly breeze and just a few showers being thrown our way at times today as well. But a little bit of brightness and early sunshine to start. That cloud will gradually increase into the afternoon. It's very likely to bring a light shower or some drizzle with it at times, but largely staying dry for many. Temperatures are a bit higher today, up to 19 degrees. So it will be feeling that little bit warmer. We'll lose a lot of that cloud and those showers as we head into this evening. Clear skies quite widely as we head into Saturday. Those overnight lows between 6 and 9 degrees. There will be plenty of sunshine around tomorrow. A largely dry day, feeling that little bit warmer. There'll be more of an easterly breeze, but it'll feel cooler again on Sunday.
OK, that's it. You can see more results, reaction and analysis over on our website. We'll see you at lunchtime. Bye-bye.
23 minutes past 9 is the time. So, English local election results are coming in. Counts are just beginning in Scotland and Wales, parliamentary results. We will bring you all of those results as they happen with the latest news throughout the day.
There is a team on standby who are going to take you through all those results later on. And Sophie's there right now, I think, ready to take over. Morning,
Hello.
Sophie.
Good morning. I am. I'm very ready to take over. 9:30, we will be coming on air. And as you say, the counts are continuing and also starting in so many places. More than 3,800 seats left to declare. So who knows what could happen over the next few hours. But we have lots of people who will be talking you through it. We're going to be getting expert analysis from Professor Sir John Curtis. Vicky Young is going to be talking us through all the seats as they come in. I'll be talking to Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, very shortly about Labour's fortunes. Also, as you said, counting begins now in Scotland and in Wales. Crucial counts there. And Clive Murray and Kirsty Walk are going to be taking us through it all.
Very good, Sophie.
Hello from Edinburgh, the Scottish Parliament behind me on a beautiful morning. These elections determine the complexion of the incoming administration. We expect results from lunchtime. The big questions, though, will the SNP and the Greens reach that magic number of 65 seats and John Swinney renew his call for an independence referendum, IndyRef 2? And secondly, will Reform do well in Scotland and overtake Labour in the Parliament? All that and more, the Scottish Secretary of State, Douglas Alexander, he'll be coming in. There are lots of guests between now and the late hours.
Yeah, hello to you. There probably isn't a human being alive who can remember a time when Labour were not the dominant force in a set of elections here. In Wales, there's a sort of very personal, visceral connection for generations of families to the party, but it seems that connection might have been broken with these elections. Certainly if you talk to senior Labour figures here who believe they've had a very bad night of it and could potentially lose control of the Senedd here, the Welsh Parliament, for the first time since devolution. Why? Potentially because they've been squeezed from the left, the progressive left, by Plaid Cymru, and squeezed from the right by Reform. Now, it is a proportional voting system that's been in play here. That does open the way for an array of other parties, but it also suggests that potentially there may not be a party getting overall control, getting the majority of seats that are needed to take full control of the Parliament. So over the next 2-3 days, weeks, who knows, maybe even longer, we may have a lot of jockeying for position and possibly coalitions and collaboration taking place. And we've got to ask the question, what does losing this Labour heartland here in Wales potentially mean for Sir Keir Starmer at Westminster? We've got plenty of this coming up. It's going to be a fascinating and potentially historic morning, so stay with us.
Stay with us indeed. Back to you.
Sophie, thanks very much.
So, we have heard from the Prime Minister in the last hour. We have heard from Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK. We have got with us Professor John Tong, who's been watching closely since the start of breakfast this morning and overnight. What's your thought? What's your takeaway so far at, 9:26?
Well, the results are every bit as bad for Labour as were forecast, but the Prime Minister has made very clear this morning that he intends to carry on. He's perfectly prepared to preside over what, on many measures, will be Labour's worst local election result ever. Labour's never lost 1,000 seats at a single local election. They're on course to do that and perhaps more. But although the same names will be no doubt put in the frame over the next couple of days, like Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham, who of course is ineligible at present to stand for the Labour leadership, Keir Starmer intends simply to relaunch his government next week.
We heard from Nigel Farage, Reform UK. They have had spectacular results this morning. His words, I quote, this is a truly historic shift in British politics. You can understand why he might say that. The results speak for themselves. Do you see it that way?
Yes, I do. We've got 5-party politics now in England. Reform are a big player. They're ahead, of course, of Labour and the Conservatives. They're not going to disappear overnight by any means. And you've got the Greens on Labour's left flank. So you've got a genuine multi-party system now. So in that sense, it's very historic. It's not about Reform capturing swathes of our councils. Only a third of the seats were up for grabs on most local councils. But Reform are a big, big player. Whether you'd extrapolate from this set of local elections that Nigel Farage is on course to be Prime Minister is a whole different thing. But Reform are a significant player.
And just briefly, with the weakness that Labour is demonstrating or showing in terms of electoral faith, we've got the parliamentary elections in Wales and Scotland. Just a brief thought on those.
Yeah, Labour's looks set to lose power in Wales for the first time in a century. That's remarkable in itself. And of course, there's a possibility that Plaid Cymru might be the largest party in Wales. If the SNP holds on to power in Scotland, as most people will assume, then you've got 3 nationalist First Ministers across Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland. The long-term future of the UK may be in some jeopardy, but that's a lot further down the track.
Professor John Tong, it's been a joy having you with us this morning. Thank you for taking us through it all with us and our audience.
That's all from us today at Breakfast. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow from 6 a.m.
On BBC One, there's live election coverage throughout the day. You can also keep up to date with the latest on the BBC News website.